All right, welcome back to episode 8 of the Brain Jar, the show where you decide how hot your take is. So we've got our regular set of members as well. We've got Sift, who has basically become a de facto co-host of this show. We've got Kenny D, who's a returning guest, and we've got a new guest as well, Baller. Hello, Baller.
Hello there, folks.
Hello, hello. So we've got quite a before we even get into that, we've got quite a wide time zone range as well, which is it's just funny to find the right time to record something like this is quite a challenge in and of itself. But
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah.
perfect.
Covering 3 continents.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yep.
So that
The
aside,
don't just saying how
Three.
bad this is. This is 3 a.m. in my time zone.
yeah, it's
Oh,
8 p.m.
God.
for me.
9 a.m. for me.
11
There we go.
a.m. for me.
All sorts. But anyway, let's get into it. We've got 2025, first podcast episode of the year. I wanted to try and do one earlier, but it's hard to find the right time for it. But before the first, quote unquote, big LAN event, maybe we'll talk about it as well. That Blast Bounty event. Wanted to get something through. So this time around, I'll let Bola start us out with his 90% take, as he's the
Okay,
new show.
my 90% take, and this is not 100% reliant on bounty. That Spirit will win IEM Katowice while dropping only one map.
That 90%. Oh my god. Hold on. Okay, you got to convince me though. Sell me on it. Why?
Here's the thing, right? So here's my 3 reasons. One, what was the team that stopped Spirit in the last 6 months? It was G2, right?
True.
Like I remember someone did the math. I think Spirit lost 8 or 7 elimination games the whole year. No, I think it was 8, right? Because they lost the Copenhagen quarterfinal phase in kind of fluky fashion, right? That's one.
Yeah.
They lost the best of 5 final to MOUZ in like a studio land. This is when MOUZ was like the best team in the world. It was like cooking everyone, right?
True.
They lost a 2-0 to NaVi Pro League. This is when NaVi was the best team in the world, right? In the 6 finals, right?
Yes.
They lost the same final to Dallas, and this is when like Duster just got added and like Mez dropped like 30 kills on Mirage, if you remember, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yes. And then there's those 4 elimination losses, right? They lost 4 elimination series to G2 that year.
True. But here's the thing.
Let me just cover one time, right?
Go on.
It was EWC in the quarterfinals. Remember they first got the MOUZ lineup.
Yeah.
They lost the Cologne infamous last place game 13-1, 13-3. They lost the quarterfinal of fall finals, which you do go on to win the tournament, and they got blitzed in the best of 5, 3-0 in the world finals.
True.
4 different occasions, and 2 of them resulted in G2 winning a tournament, right? Now G2 have lost their second best player and their franchise player, NiKo. G2 objectively have not been looking that great bounty. Admittedly, it's online. We know that, G2 guys don't play a lot of online games. Even MOUZ wasn't out here playing like tons of online games before joining G2. He only mainly was playing like qualifiers and stuff, right? And a bit of ECL, right? And Snacks has never been someone who's loved online, right? Everyone knows the old verse pro used to hate online.
I mean,
right?
I don't think it makes a difference for him, but
still, but outside of but G2 have not put some ugly CS, right? And so let's look at the rest of the field, right? So NaVi, I'm still not convinced is out of their slump, right?
we might end up talking about that, but yeah, let's assume that that's true.
And NaVi have always had a bad match against Spirit regardless, right? They're like 1-6 in series or something ridiculous, right?
Yes, I believe so.
FaZe have always had a struggle against Spirit, and they're not even playing great right now. So that's
another
they got
kind of
free win.
They got a lot of work to be done, for sure.
Exactly. MOUZ is one of the few teams that actually has a decent match against Spirit, but MOUZ can't get to Spirit half the time because they're either losing to like NaVi or they're losing to FaZe or they can't even qualify to fucking events sometimes. Admittedly, MOUZ is weird online, but still, I'm not convinced they're like as good as they were like a year ago. And like who in the field is actually favored to beat Spirit? But that's maybe Vitality.
Yeah, listen, you're saying a lot of true stuff, but you're only dropping one map is sort of the crazy part because even in series 1, they drop quite a few maps just to like random teams. Like here and there.
True, I'll give you that.
So like if you remove the map sort of qualifier to it, I would even say like there's a fair chance that's like even true. I still think 90% is too high for any team to win an event. I mean the betting odds will sort of agree with you, but opinion wise, maybe that's a fine stance.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sif, go ahead. You have something to say?
I mean, I see your point, but I think that it's way too early in the season to really be able to guess anyone's form. The only 2 wins that Spirit have had so far is versus Fnatic and FlyQuest, which I'm not gonna lie, those are 2 tier 2 teams.
Yeah.
I mean, even according to like Valve's new rules, any team below ranking 8 is tier 2. And sure, their first game versus Fnatic looked a bit wobbly. That was 13-10.
Yes.
The rest of them were blowouts.
True,
Yes.
true.
But I don't know. As you said, backpack. It's really rare for a team to go an entire event with only dropping a map. Even rarer for it to go without dropping a map. I mean, the last big one that I can remember really is obviously the NaVi major springs to mind. Back in 2021.
I think was it
But
No, the
in
last time I
Kato?
can think
Didn't
of
they
was
only
when
lose one
Vitai
map?
won. Vitai won World Final.
No, I'm talking
Without
about
talking
Spirits Kato.
oh right, I don't really
The
watch
Spirit won.
World
No, Spirit lost
Final
one map. Katowice. They
on
lost the 13-11 to
principle.
Navi. When
Yeah,
wonderful
yeah,
double
yeah.
one
That's what.
before. Remember?
Yeah. That's what I meant.
I don't want to watch EWC on
Yeah. No,
principle.
I'm talking
And I don't
about
really
Kato.
consider it as Kato. Yeah, fair.
Yeah, like Spirits'
But
last win. Yeah.
did they only drop a single map?
Yeah, the
Yeah,
Navi
because
game.
remember they lost
Remember?
13-11 to Navi. Where wonderful were like
That was
25
it.
kills.
Yeah,
I
but
thought
that.
they
Yeah.
dropped
Yeah,
one
but
in the early
event was a
rounds.
Dunk 1.7, and I mean Dunk's been great,
Yeah,
but Dunk 1.7 event rating is I don't think it's happening again for like immediately. At least you can't predict on it. Like
I think I'll say this. I think Kato is probably the event where they decide whether they want to replace Magix with Kyosuke. I'm not sure how to pronounce it
Kyosuke,
still.
if you're being a weeb, yeah.
Because I think he definitely overperformed compared to how he performed in the entire season in
I agree.
in the major.
Especially in the semifinal and the final. He was unreal in those games.
Yes.
He was he was posting numbers similar to Donk. I will say obviously it's too early to say. Maybe I mean could be like happened with JL where the major seemed to be a waking up point for him and then he gained this sort of unreal consistency in certain like events. But yeah, sorry, that's getting sidetracked. I see your point, but I try not to get wound up in the hype too much. I could
Yeah,
see
I feel
them
you.
getting to like top 4 easily, pretty much. Because I mean, if you look at the opening round, I was just getting the page up for the opening round. So the first round they go up against the play-in. So let's say.
They're
I
good.
mean,
They're
I
going to
don't
get a
wanna-
second round. They'll lose lower bracket plan.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the playing teams are pretty
most
bad.
most likely they go against NaVi in the upper semifinals.
Yes.
And then
Which for
it's
them is a good
MOUZ or
matchup.
Mongols.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I see the vision. I definitely see the vision, especially if they get like a weaker team in the opening round. Like maybe they lose a map versus NaVi, and then either they dominate MOUZ or Mongols, or something happens. And that gets them into top 4. I see that. It really depends on kind of how people show up in the opening round, because
Yeah.
yeah.
I think Kenny, do you have anything to say on Spirit? What do you think about this one?
I just for me it's always hard to agree that it is 90%. I think that's the biggest take I have because
Yeah.
I don't. There isn't something I do not believe that Spirit can achieve because they've already achieved previously at last year at Katowice where they won without dropping more than one map. But from perspective of 90%, it's like Spirit winning tournament, Dong being MVP, that could be 90%, because that's what you kind of expect. That's expectations currently everyone have. But them dropping
Single map.
no less
It
than one map
requires a
is
lot
kind
of
of
things to
crazy.
go right.
Yes.
Yes, exactly. With current MR12, with the way
Yeah.
economy works,
Yeah, 2
dropping a
pistols,
map,
win, lose some clutches. Yeah.
yeah, the possibility of dropping a map is too high. Like
Yeah.
you can't. I cannot go with 90%. I could go with 50 maybe on that.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Like, yeah, but I cannot go with 90% and agree
Yeah.
that it is a
Like it
possibility.
isn't. I'll bend the knee on this. I'll take the map part out and risk like if I just say Spirit wins Katowice and like let's assume it's in like not too unconvincing fashion. Is that still like a
Like
90%?
dominant win, you say? Like no maps, but just dominant.
Like a pretty like they lose a few maps, but they don't lose a series.
Yeah. They don't like they're not in trouble. Honestly, I think that's closer. It's not a 50% anymore. Honestly, like here's the thing, and I was looking at the 2024 like map drop results just before we move on to that because you already mentioned that you're not talking about the map qualifier because even in a lot of their one games they drop maps like it's not anything strange to them like like even in like the tournaments aside from Kato, especially even recently they dropped quite a few maps. Like even best of threes, they dropped map to Heroic, they dropped maps to FaZe, they dropped maps to MOUZ, they lost to Passion UA in a best of one. That's one map, technically speaking, in a best of three, that could happen. So even if they win, they can lose maps. So that's why with the maps that doesn't work. But like
And the final being best of 5.
yeah. But 90% to win the event, even though it's just too high of a percentage, I agree that they do have a lot of chance to win. Teams right now, I don't know if it's just me, but the like top teams, I guess the top teams, tier 1 by Valve definition, a lot of them feel sort of like paper tigers. I
agree.
Yeah. I don't.
And that's my main reason why I'm making it 90-50 is not just the G2 no longer being G2 because they don't have NiKo and Monty and Mobs kind of overpower Spirit, but also everyone else's map pools at Spirit fucking sucks right now.
True.
Like Spirit is I'll admit Spirit's map pool before Shanghai was fucking dire for being honest. Like they had like 2.5 maps they could play, but at Shanghai they played like so many maps. They played Nuke successfully. They had won a bunch of Dust 2 games. They had freaking Mirage still in the pocket. They had Ancient in the pocket. They had so many maps in the pocket still, right? And then you look at everyone else in the field, right? Okay, Spirit can play Train. I mean, it's not their best map, but not a lot of teams can be like a favorite against them, right? Look at the contemporaries, right? NaVi's map pool is fucking dire. It's been dire for a couple months now. They have like 3 maps they can barely play. They're not even playing Dust 2 and they used to be the best team in the world on that map. Like, that's concerning, right? Vitality used to have the best map pool, even when they didn't have the best results, right?
True.
You know Vitality used to go like 4 or 5 maps deep, right?
Yes, it was pretty wide.
It was really wide. It was like 3 to 4 maps would be like 70+% win rate. Vitality would always go to 3 maps. Even Vitality's map pool doesn't look clean. Like they're like struggling to win like Mirage games. Like they're not. Admittedly, it's a new roster, but still they're not like winning the games as clean as I expect. FaZe map pool's been like dire for like 6 months. MOUZ's map pool's been like pretty thin for a while now. G2's map pool was never that good. Even G2 was the best team in the world. They barely had a deep enough map pool to be the best, right?
True.
Well,
but
that's more of an
most of the
IGL
time,
diff.
That's true.
most of
Because
the time
G2,
you are going
think about it,
to play
even when G2 had
map.
the best team with Hooksy, they barely got like 3 good maps. They had Mirage, Inferno, and Nuke, and that was basically it.
Yeah, I mean the rest of the maps, back when they were like at their best, it was just individuals. It's hard to call that a map pool, even though it might have been.
So
Kenny, what were you saying?
Let's assume Spirit makes the final. Be like even a crazy take, right? Let's assume they're at least right. Who in the field can win a best of 5 against Spirit right now?
Mongols.
I think it's.
I'm not even fully joking.
I mean, I don't know. I'm being cautious as usual, I guess.
Yeah.
Unless it comes to Astralis or FaZe, really, I try and be super cautious. But we haven't even seen a LAN. We've got a lot of new lineups.
Not as many as we'd
I'd
like.
say
maybe,
I'd say Spirit are definitely one of the favorites going in. I would say that easily. I just 90% to win. I think Donk he's proven everybody with the consistency of it. It's the people around him that like it can't just he's shown he can carry them over the win as all like great players can. Doing that for like what 10 matches?
Yeah.
It's true. We have seen Donk struggle. It's not that
6
Donk is
matches.
infallible now.
No, because here's the thing, right? To win Katowice, he has to play at least bare minimum 11 maps. So the chance of Donk carrying 11 maps is like, I agree, that's a bit much.
Yeah. Okay, before we move on, I'll let Kenny speak on the point to close us off. Kenny, what are you saying?
I think the one thing I would say is you also need to, because of the amount of new teams, we don't actually know the map pool of those teams and the changes that are made. I think with the addition of Train also, it puts another kind of coggle in the machine of who has strong map pools. Do we know, like, we saw Spirits train, and I wouldn't say I'm confident enough to say they are still well versed. No team is well versed at the moment how to play
Yes.
train. So that's also another possibility of a underdog team taking train, prepping counter-strat against Spirit. They are not prepared. You lose them up, you know. Like, I think there is still a high probability of them losing maps like that, so I just cannot go and easily say that Spirit are going to win Katowice with dropping only
Yeah,
one
but
map.
even without the map, I think just 90% that they win Kato. What do you think?
No.
No? Okay.
I mean,
okay.
I don't think 90% is still too high for me.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But
okay.
they are
That's
the
fair.
clear favorite. They are clear favorite to win it, but 90% is very high number for me to go and say and put Spirit in that category.
Yeah. I think that's rightful. Okay, I'll go with my. We're okay with moving on.
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I'll go with my 90% because we started talking a bit about vitality, and I think this one might be a bit less contentious. So everyone's kind of, maybe not everyone, but people have been talking about ropz and vitality. You know what's going to happen, and I'm 90% sure ropz and vitality will change pretty much nothing about the results. So, I mean, we've sort of the hype about vitality and the hype about ropz to vitality was it was more of a whimper than, there was not much fanfare. I don't see very many people being like, this is the time vitality is really gonna win. Like last year, ropz made it to top 20, but that was like a barely made it. Some people saying,
That was like a last minute
yeah,
push.
exactly, right. And it was pretty underwhelming for his standards. And Spinks was actually quite good last year, all things considered.
Yes.
Right. And I wouldn't say that I wouldn't call it an upgrade, and some people might even call it a downgrade, or like for ropz to join in place with Spinks. Obviously, we know we don't know, but we can guess about what kind of factors Spinks, ropz, the decision being made, out of game stuff, right? But I don't think ropz joining is gonna cause some individual improvement in the team's fragging. I don't think that he's gonna necessarily bring so many new ideas that the vitality's problems at winning big events more than they did last time. Because last time, it was the whole problem. Like, why didn't they win more when they have such a good potential as a roster? I don't think that ropz coming in here changes enough. Because I think Zymu's gonna do the same stuff he's always done. I think as long as you have Apex and Xtaz being coach IGL combo, it's kind of the ceiling of era defining. I don't think it's reachable for them. And this ropz move just doesn't move the needle for me. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
No, I agree. I think it's side grade more than upgrade for Vitality ropz. One thing that it will bring, I think, is certain level of maybe better meshing of personalities. I
Yeah.
assume ropz will fit in much better with personality than Spinks did. But the problem is, last year Vitality, if you overall look at their year, they've consistently been in the playoffs.
Yes,
They've
I noted the
consistently
same.
reached semis, quarters, with maybe failing once or twice
And they were in 3
overall
finals.
during the
Yes.
whole year. So the biggest problem with Vitality is clearly that last push that they need.
Yes.
That arena, the increase at arena level.
It wasn't just arena. They lost to Eternal
And
Fire and EPL.
I'm not. The problem still will
They got
be
blitzed
in
by
the
MOUZ in
coaching.
the best of 5. They got
Obviously,
smoked.
Extas is not shown anything saying that he is that level of a coach that can bring consistent championships to the team, or consistency to this team beyond that semi-final reach, which is something they are able to do because of the level of Zyvu. Can play Flames, he can play at that level in a group stage. But when you're in arena in front of the fans with all the noise around you, it's a different. There's different aspects of psychological level you need in that scene. So for me personally, I think I agree fully on that take. I don't think it would massively change what is happening in Vitality.
Yeah, and I think just
Okay.
because people might be like, well, they can still win, but like last year they won Cologne. I think everyone forgets that Vitality won Cologne because
Yes.
there's people are like Vitality didn't win much, but they did win one of the, if you're talking about 4 best trophies of last year, they did win one of them,
Yeah.
but they're still underwhelming from people's standards. So I think they can even match and win like Kato or Cologne this year, but that doesn't mean that I don't think they'll exceed what they
Yeah.
did last year.
Sure. My 2 small takes is I agree with the sentiment that it's maybe more of a personal take, and ropz is unlike Spinks. Like ropz will give more ideas to Vitality, which allows them to maybe change some things if they don't work. Because Spinks is someone I always think of Spinks as someone who's like a silent killer. Like Spinks gets his kills, he gets his multis. You go to his site or his area of the map, he'll kill you. But Spinks, to me, and this is why I've never loved passive riflers. I always prefer aggressive rifles like Assertion type player. Is that like passive riflers, especially in CS2, keep that in mind, especially they can't win you games, in my opinion.
I think the dynamic is definitely shifted. Even if you're a passive rifler, you now need to know when to be aggressive and when to take things into your
Yeah.
own hands. You can't let things
Like
come to you and feel things out the way you could in CS:GO. That's for sure.
Because like with the consistent like failure of teams around Blame F, like I think Blame F's a skilled player. I'm not even trying to disrespect him and stuff like that. But like I think Blame F can be
Yeah.
on the best team in the world in theory, right? The problem is like think about it, right? Think about what were Blame F's 2 biggest accomplishments as an individual. We're both the same top finishers at Cologne, right?
True.
The first Cologne, Config played out of his mind, if you remember. He played amazing.
What's
He was one of his
Config up
best
to
ever
these
tournament.
days?
Yeah, like he's gone now. But remember Cologne 2023, Device played inhuman CS, if you remember. He played amazing.
Yeah. Maybe the
And
last time.
also Bloods had like that insane quarterfinal against Heroic as well, if you remember.
True. I mean, he is still performing
And
on Fnatic. It's just like, it's Fnatic.
not just that. I remember the overpass side against NaVi in the groups. Buzz had like 30 kills, if you remember. Like even before the playoffs. Like Buzz had like some insane maps, and Device played inhuman CS, and like it wasn't exclusively Blanf that got them to that semifinal. Blanf he contributed. For example, right, this Shanghai major final actually proved how redundant Frozen sometimes can be. Where like Frozen had one of his weakest collection of games ever, and FaZe were like a few rounds to win the major. Like that's how redundant passive riflers can be if the aggressive pieces that make the plays are doing well enough.
It's true. If the game doesn't go their way, they look like they're doing nothing. That's the most
But my
detrimental
main
part.
reason why I don't think ropz fixes Vitality is my problem with Vitality has always been I think Apex is a terrible leader of men.
I actually think the opposite is true, but maybe we'll talk about
I
it.
disagree because here's the thing. I think Apex is a great tactician in terms of making the players comfortable in the style that they play.
Yeah. Oh no, never
Because
mind.
like
I do agree.
very
Yeah,
clearly
yeah.
like fast set plays. They clearly like the players like the style generally, and there's a reason why as soon as like Zonic got off of Apex's nuts, they won the major.
Well,
As soon as they got
yeah.
help Max Taz, they won the major.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean,
Yeah. Go on,
Wait,
Sift.
what?
I will say with that major, it was definitely one of the weaker
Yeah, I agree.
ones.
But even when they won IEM
And-
Rio, where they beat like Heroic pretty cleanly, like 2-0, they beat like some good teams that
Yeah.
had beat FaZe in the groups dominantly. Like that was when the Apex started gaining the leash a bit more, if you know what I mean. And like Zonic got off of his neck a bit more. So clearly the style in itself isn't the issue. I just think there's a reason why like when Apex melts down, the team falls apart. Think about it. Every time
I will agree
I
that Zonic
agree.
is probably showing himself to be a bit overrated, especially with like his tenure at Falcons. I think he's carried a lot by the epic
Legacy.
run with Astralis.
Yeah, and I mean, listen,
But he
that's
hasn't
years
really
ago
shown
now.
much on Falcons. And like he didn't show much on Vitality either. So I think that
Go on, sorry.
one thing I will say against Vitality, while you do say they did win Cologne, their run you can only face the people who you go against, but their run at Cologne was not something really to I mean on paper it looks like it's not that bad of a run. But
I disagree.
I'll
I actually
explain the
disagree on that.
context. I'll explain the context around that. They faced 5 teams: Furious, Saw, FaZe, MOUZ, and NaVi. Now, obviously, on paper, that sounds really great because you've got FaZe, MOUZ, and NaVi. However, with the context that this is in sort of the beginning of the second season, August mid-August
Yes.
phase. FaZe was looking
Dire.
pretty dire.
Yeah, that wasn't the best phase.
And even then, now obviously the phase nut 5 vitality, they brought back some of that phase magic during that match. I do remember, but even then it was really close for vitality.
And also, like, Zyro had a weirdly off series,
13-9.
remember?
Yeah, but 13-9, 16-12, and then
Yeah.
8-13 lost to vitality. That's I mean, obviously Zyro doesn't. Zyro tends to go missing in sort of big pressure events games. It seems.
I kind of agree, but depends on the situation.
And then they go against MOUZ, who are historic chokers, in my opinion.
Admittedly, this was a group final. This was like a seeding game, so I wouldn't throw that. Like, I would say Vitality just earned the win. Very fast.
That's true. It is.
Flames popped off with a 1.6. That's not something that you generally
and we
get
did
over
previously
3 matches.
attribute a lot of like MOUZ winning the groups, like, so we can't have it both ways. We can't say that. I mean, back then that was already the beginning of the end, obviously. But like,
I've said specifically, and I've been consistent on this. I still think. I mean, MOUZ have changed their roster now, so we'll have to see.
No, they haven't, right?
But no, they haven't.
They're
the one of the
they
few
still
ones
coach.
that didn't. I don't think. I've always been hesitant about MOUZ.
Yes.
I get that.
Always disappointed.
Yes.
I called them like messing up on the major. People, not this major, but the previous major. People were thinking, oh, they can make it all the way, and I was saying no. They're. I mean, obviously the stage rush happened.
Yes.
Like, the players were pretty scared.
That's what they say, yeah, and I would believe them. But
Yeah,
still.
but I mean, even that sort of scarred them, honestly, for a lot of events afterwards. I think
maybe that's a take. The only reason MOUZ don't have an era is because they got rushed on stage.
No, but I mean, even in the year before that major, they were always looking sort of here and there. I think maybe I've been a bit too down on them, but. And then, in the finals, they did win in a best of 5 versus.
Yeah, and they took that was the beginning of the
NaVi.
Mirage downfall. With NaVi having Mirage up until then, right?
Yeah, but I will say it did go 4 maps.
Yes,
and it was incredibly close.
Yes.
22-20 on Mirage.
Yeah, I remember watching that series. I think Vitality won 6 out of 8 pistols.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, and alongside that, JL was really underperforming. He got a 0.92 across all 4 events.
Also, Zyro got 100 kills in 4 maps.
Yeah. So that's sort of the thing, is that like Zyro got a 1.28, which is not actually that insane.
Yeah, but it's harder to
him,
maintain inflated ratings across best of 5s. We forget
keep in mind
because
there's
of
a 1.28 against the best team in the world in a best of 5 Cologne final against like a team that, you know what I mean? It's a very good final. Come on.
That's a good final, but I would say there is at least one asterisk.
There are things to discuss, but like I don't think you could make a harder bracket and you could make a harder run for them, but you can't. I mean, compared
IEM being the highest performing player on NaVi in the best of 5 final should not be happening.
I mean, nowadays he's not so bad.
Yeah, but this is August.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But like you agree with when I say that Vitality, like, because they won Cologne, I'm just saying as a frame of reference, they could find a win like that again with ropz, but I don't think they're gonna get
I
better.
agree with you. I think very much. I mean, if you look on purely on stats, ropz is a downgrade, but I think there's always a lot more
other
than
stuff
stats
going
when
on.
it comes to these things. There's personal relationships, and there's the experience which ropz can bring. And I have not watched the Vitality games too much. Honestly, I find them a bit uninteresting.
True.
It's true. Because they did play meta sport and verse pro, so I feel you.
Yeah, but I mean, generally, just their style of CS, it's not super exciting for me in the past
Yeah,
year or so.
they're definitely not one of the best teams to watch, even if they're like
Yeah,
it's
true,
just
because they're very puggy and like they're very set play. It's like either Vitai wins
Yes.
the round or the round's done.
there's no
It's
excitement.
like
there's no
with
sauce.
old VP when Jame was on them. I
Mm.
had a rule of thumb where I wouldn't start watching them until 15 rounds had passed, because that's
Mhm.
about when they start to play exciting CS,
Mhm.
because they actually have their backs against the wall a bit. Because
I
they
think
tended to
Vitality.
drag things out.
One thing Vitality can maybe really assess inside their team is how you play mid rounds.
True.
And
Mm.
when you are in situation, when you're in 3v4s, when you're in 4v4s on different maps, on different situations, or like maybe you're in 5v4, how do you realize the potential of a player advantage or when you're in a player disadvantage? And I think that aspect could help them a lot to give a bit more structure to Apex, also to make the
Yeah.
decision. Because currently it does feel like they're headless chicken when the mid round starts. Like if you early on the first kind of 20 to 40 seconds, they know what to do.
Yeah.
And then in the clutch situations, you have players now who can perform. You have ropz, you have Zyvo. Flamesy can win a clutch, you know? Mezzy is decent in clutches. Like, but that mid round is a problem. It's like if you
Yes.
don't know what to do during situation when you have certain amount of information on a map, and then you need to decide, as for example, 4v3 situation, what are we doing? Are we going to this side? What kind of smokes? It's like you don't need to think about that at that point. You already need to know what to do. Like you
Yes.
already need to have set up strats for the situations like this. And this is why I do not trust Extas in that manner, because if they had a decent coach, he would have already done the drilling and training of that for this whole year. And
Yeah.
for a whole year, there has been no changes for that. Admittedly, maybe Spinks was a problem mood wise, or he didn't listen, and I don't know, inner workings of Vitality, obviously. But if if you cannot at least focus on the other four guys and then help them to decide how to play out those kind of situations, then I'm
Yeah.
not sure he's doing his job, honestly.
This is sort of a side tangent,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I do think that the weakest part of the scene right now is IGLs and coaches.
I agree.
I
Yeah.
was
Yes.
disappointed in the sort of roster changes.
Lack of
I think
ideal
in a
changes.
yeah, in the I did predict that like maybe there would be some uh new faces to IGLing, and it
Yeah.
seems that the teams have not been sort of ballsy enough to go with that risk. I know it's a risk, but at this point
Yeah.
in the stage, you have a lot of aging IGLs. You have
Yeah.
well, you have some aging IGLs who are good.
Yes. Some that are not.
Like Glaive and Carrigan really,
Uh,
and Apex sort of.
mhm.
You have a lot of really pretty bad IGLs, and I would put Snacks in that list. And
Yes,
then you have
absolutely.
like one or two
I'll
young
put Twist in that list too,
ones.
but he's not old.
Well, there's actually surprisingly enough, there are actually quite a few quote unquote young IGLs. It's just that this we don't. I don't think
They're
we
not on the
think of
top team. That's the
we don't
difference.
think of them as young either, even because they've been around for a little while. So they kind
Yeah,
of
they're like known commodities.
yeah, they're not fresh to us.
Yeah, yeah.
Like if you look at the top sort of sub top teams, obviously we know like Alexi B. I wouldn't call him young anymore, but he's
Oh,
not
I was
old.
talking
Right?
like in the like
Sub
top
top.
10, top 20,
Yeah,
maybe.
fringe teams maybe.
I
You're saying.
mean, I know straight away two IGLs which I consider are very good actually, and
Oh yeah.
I hold them in high regard. I think it's Shuhi from MOUZ. I
Oh
still
yeah. I
think
mean,
he's very
I was
good.
just gonna say
And
Shui's.
and second one is actually ZTR. I think he will be good. I know Ash is
Oh,
a massive help, but I think
Yeah.
ZTR will be very
Yeah,
good in future. He's only 21. He's
Yeah.
getting his getting grip, and the way Gamer Legion played,
Mhm.
which I think also comes down from Ash
yeah,
as a
yeah, yeah.
coach. But still, the way they played, yeah, he's got it. Like he will work it out in the next couple of years. I'm sure he will be talkative more than he is currently.
Yeah, I think I can
Also,
see that.
Blitz and Mara is a great combo,
Yeah,
obviously,
yeah.
from Mongols. Like, I think on one hand, I agree that there is maybe like top level coaches, like creme de la
Hmm.
creme, but from perspective of
But what I mean is
we still have.
more I'm disappointed in the sort of higher end teams for not making the sort of hires for that other than
Yes,
MOUZ.
that's true.
MOUZ have kind of are really good with Sui. I'd
Is
say
it side tap?
he's one of the big reasons for their success. But the rest of them, I was really hoping for some more inspired choices.
Yeah,
I mean, Mongols is top
I
three,
agree, I
but
agree.
like I don't think they
But I
really
think
should
it
be
goes hand
top
in hand,
three right now.
right? I think because you're
Mongols
talking
shouldn't
about
even be top 7.
it's true. But like if you're talking about IGLs
Like-
and coaches, it sort of goes hand in hand that one sort of causes the other, right? If there's not good coaches or even GMs, but nowadays it's sort of it ends up being a bit of a one in the same sort of thing, right? That if there's not enough good coaches, you can't have an IGL jump up the ladder so quickly because you need a good coach for a young IGL, even if the young IGL is like a genius,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And like the MOUZ is sort of a weird exception case because Cyclone moved up with them, right? Because Cyclone was the coach of the academy with Sui,
Yeah.
and then they both sort of climbed the ladder together in that sort of way.
Yeah.
But like if you're
Yeah.
talking about
Well-
other cases, like Ash is there to help because ZTR could be good as well, and I'm not saying he's not good, but he still needs guidance to get to the top.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at
Yeah.
Heroic right now, right? LNZ is the IGL of that team, right?
Yes.
I'm pretty sure. Like, and that's Saw on that team, and so my eyes also on that kind of player. If he gets to keep that IGO, then something could brew there as well at this point because I know we're
Yeah.
talking about Saw and stuff in the future. I have no reason to.
Also, like LMZ also
so-
used to obviously Sangul had Jumpy as well, and Jumpy's a legendary coach as well. So
True.
give him that
Yeah.
credit.
To link it back to the original point though,
Yes.
I think one thing to look out for is how will ropz be able to handle an IGL like Apex?
Well,
Because I think
his
he's
interview
been
statements
on
are
some
very
pretty-
flowery, but
He's been on some pretty calm. He's used, as far as I can tell, to some pretty calm IGLs before. I mean, obviously Carrigan, and then he switched over to. Well, he stayed with MOUZ, and MOUZ had.
He was the
Did
Dexter
they have
for a
Sui
bit.
at that point? Dexter.
No, he was the Dexter.
yes.
He was with the
Okay.
Chris J. Chris J is pretty laid back too.
So, I mean, obviously this is pure speculation, but I mean, it could go either way. It could go poorly, or it could be for a way for ropz to like be another sort of older voice in the team to sort of not necessarily older voice, but more firm in sort of because I feel like ZywOo. He has what he wants, but I don't think he sort of exerts what he wants
Yes,
on the
I
rest
was
of
gonna
the
say that as
team
well.
as much as he should.
Like I feel like Rob's
And
coming in. Rob's is. I feel like he's more of a secondary caller than ZywOo is, and he's just joined, and that feels bad to me.
Yeah, but that could be good.
Could be, but like
ropz definitely has a great mind for the game.
yeah, but it's
at least
ZywOo.
on
man.
the. Yeah, it's more of a down point on ZywOo
Yes,
than a
yes.
good.
I agree.
But yeah, so I'd agree with your 90%. I can't see too much changing right now, but again, I want to be hesitant because it's the beginning of the
Yeah,
season.
yeah, of
90%, maybe it's a bit much, but I'd say like 75%.
Okay, well, do you
Yeah.
think? Okay, like, do you think they can win back-to-back events?
No.
I no.
Yeah,
No.
and
I
that
mean,
would, and
unless
then
you
that's
count,
the
First of all, I
improvement.
think the only team that went
Miller.
back to events is Spirit. I
Yes,
think no other team.
and that would be an improvement from last year. So then I feel like you basically like, even if you're being conservative about it,
Yeah.
you're basically agreeing with me. It's just
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I see your point. It's I'm just being quibbling about like
Yeah,
percentages,
that's
but
fair.
I see your point
Yeah,
and I
okay.
agree with it.
Well, I
overall.
think that rounds it up. We'll move on. Who wants to?
No, I was
Kenny?
gonna say
Yeah,
two
go on.
small
Finish
things.
it.
I agree with Kenny's point about the mid rounds. My problem is, and this is maybe I don't know if this is said publicly or maybe privately, Apex doesn't trust his players in mid rounds. I think that's like the first problem.
We getting?
Like,
Is
he
that
just-
like a statement, something that he made somewhere, or
Like
is
I
that
don't
like
know
a
if this is
vibe?
like I don't know if this, I remember like Yanko's talked about this before. He just like it's And I remember this because this is the reason they lost the Dallas final, if you remember. Where it felt like Vitality just had no faith in the players to win mid-rounds against fucking Stu 2K. Like, it looked like remember their first game where they just kept going for a bunch of CT pushes and G2 like punched them a bunch of times, if you remember?
Vaguely.
Okay, but
and
this is
even remember
getting into
even the
speculation
Anubis
territory.
game.
Yeah, it is speculation.
Yeah,
so
and
like,
and
we can't-
theoretically they should be like that. That should, if
Yeah.
anything's changing, that's something that will change.
Unless you
Yeah.
grab Spinks now on a street and ask him that question, like we're not gonna know.
We're gonna get that
Sure.
info, but we're gonna get it in like half a year or 1 year. Like,
Yeah.
'cause-
So I feel like this partially because Apex just has no faith in this team. Like, because think about it, right? When he had like Magus and Dupree, those are veterans. Like he can trust them to play
yes,
mid
but
rounds,
then
right?
wouldn't you
And
say
he
that that's
prime
the thing
fucking-
that would
those guys are
change
prime
now?
stars. They know how to play mid rounds.
Like, I know it goes against my point, but if anything's going to change, that would be the only thing to change. I don't think he's going to be individually
But I
better.
think that's
But
because ropz is more of a veteran than Spinks.
yes, well, it's also because ropz is one, so I think Apex maybe it's a bit of like the NiKo syndrome. You're only trusting players that have won, like when he kept getting major winners in those phase lineups
Yeah.
out of pure delusion, right? It may be some of the same, right?
I agree,
Apex
like
being such a veteran.
You know the idea of like the company credit card, where like even if you haven't been good for a while, because you were good for so long, you get way more
Yes,
passes.
and players
Like
do
the reason
that
why
a lot.
Shox got the liquid invite, despite having not been a star player for like 3 years, is because he's Shox, right? Shox was so good for so long that he literally be a mid tier, like all right, like second star in Vitality for
It's a
like
dark
2
period
years.
of history.
He still was
Shox
a liquid invite. Shox
Yeah,
liquid was
yeah,
a
yeah.
nightmare. But that's
Yeah.
not the point. I love Shox, but that's not the point.
Yeah.
But the point, so I agree with the mid round point with Kenny. I think that's a great point. The second thing is when it comes to that Cologne bracket, the only bracket I think that's more difficult than Vitality's Cologne was when G2 won fall finals, where they had to play FaZe into Spirit into Vitality to NaVi. That run's ridiculous. But outside of that, I can't think of that many runs that are better than the Cologne run. And the last thing I'll say, and this is my problem, and I don't see Vitality being the absolute best, is I'm still not convinced ropz can like win games. And that's
True.
kind of my
I
life.
think, well, he said
ropz
much the same himself.
Because not in the way that you think. I think ropz is a better stage player than Spinks. That's also because I think the Vitality style isn't as good in big games.
I don't know if here's the thing. Saying that their style isn't as good as in big games is sort of a difficult thing to do because I think it
Because
comes
think
down
about it,
to
right?
more
Because
than
FaZe's
just
style post NiKo has been bullshit, right? It's been
I
the FaZe
wouldn't call that the
bullshit
style. I would just say that's the guy making the like. I don't think the style is what changed. I think it's the players that change in that situation.
Yes. I agree with the players. Obviously, FaZe have always had like 3 passive players and like 2 mediocre aggressive riflers in the context of like other aggressive riflers, right?
Sure.
And so the FaZe there's why FaZe used to be so good in like 2-on-4s is because obviously first off the chemistry of the players was pretty good if you watch the games.
Yes.
And secondly, it felt like the players believed that they could win the clutch. And it felt like they had faith in like everyone else that even if it's like a Carrigan 1v2, they believe Carrigan can win the clutch somehow, right? In that sense. Because of Vitality, I know have never had the faith. Because think about Spinks as a player, right? In CSGO, Spinks was dynamite because he could be really passive. Because CSGO was a slower
Well, yeah,
game.
but that
He
was
can
also
kinda take his
the
time.
team setup was also very different in that situation.
True.
So I think
like,
it's
Spinks can take his
impossible to
time.
compare that here and now. And that's also like interpersonal issues that we know were there. I mean, that's kind of all to the side now. But yeah. Anyway.
I was thinking about like why like Spinks' style, for example, stopped working in like CS2 in comparison.
Well, no, he was
to, like,
individually good in Vitality. I don't think that's.
I'm talking
was
in comparison to be the 4th best player in the world in 2023 and being like top 5 player with Ents.
Yeah, but I think that's just like that's too far in the part. I don't think it's relevant to like.
True. I get
now.
what you mean. I'm just saying like
Yeah.
like the only way I think Vitality they completely like just play like with belief that the players can win around. Also, and this is kind of a minor
true because
point,
I don't think it's
Flamesy looked really bad at Bounty.
Yeah, but it's literally just happened. I would wait. It's online as well. Who knows?
Yeah,
Who
like
knows what's
obviously I'll
going
give him
on?
out like it's just new
Yeah,
roles.
yeah,
Flames
yeah,
is
yeah,
getting just the better roles, but like Flames look a bit rough at Bounty. I gotta wait for him to start playing better before I can believe.
Anyway, we'll move on now. I think we've discussed it. So I think we'll go on to Kenny. Or say which one of you wants to take this? Take your 90%.
Oh, I'll give Sift.
Yeah. Okay, Sift, your 90%.
Okay, so my 90% is sort of vaguer than I usually go with,
Yeah,
but
that's fine.
I'm 90% sure that people will agree. Heroics GMing has worked immensely the past 2 rosters. Like it's come out through luck primarily, I would say, especially with the Astralis trying to do the whole thing with
Stabby
Stown
thing.
in the Abbey, and them getting, what was it, 2 million out of that, and then the
Yeah.
rumored price buyout of Falcons is incredibly lucky with
It's like
them just
6 mil,
wanting
I
to
think, or
buy a
5 mil, I
roster.
think.
4 mil, I think, is
Yeah,
the
something like that.
more
I mean, we don't know the
reasonable estimate.
specifics, but yes.
Yeah. But considering that, and considering the fact that they've basically had to rebuild twice, and they're still sort of, top. I mean,
Well, they're top 20 now, but it's been a while. They haven't had the time to build up ranking.
yeah, because it's a full rebuild, so they don't have the points. But I would say, they definitely have, like, this roster definitely has potential. And the fact that they've been able to survive such big changes does show that they at least have an eye on the game in terms of players outside of their own org, which some orgs really don't seem like they have.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously
Yeah, safe to go on.
some orgs don't have the money to do it, but now obviously Heroic have gained quite a lot, and it's very impressive considering how, like, on the verge of bankruptcy they were in 2021. I'd say it's very impressive for them to not just have survived, but also, making deep runs in tournaments, being competitive versus top teams still, even across different rosters. I think that this, yeah. So what do you guys think? Really, I don't have too many sort of stats to go about it. I guess we could go into the events they've won, but yeah.
But I actually want to expand that point. Actually, I actually want to go back to the beginning of the online era actually to explain how good Heroic's GMing has been. Because you remember when Heroic briefly were the best in 2020, obviously admittedly online,
Yes.
region
Yes,
lock-in,
I remember what you're
yada
talking
yada
about.
yada, right? But like you remember the lineup was Cadian, Tessa, Stown, NiKo, and Borp, right? Am I wrong about that? I'm pretty
Yes,
sure that
yes,
was
you're
the
right,
lineup.
you're right. And then they took the two
Yes.
out.
And then there's NiKo and Borp out. And remember, the two players added were from Mad Lions. It was Shush and it was Refresh. And they won the Pro League in a best of 5 against Gambit. This was Gambit was wrecking
And this
everyone.
is lowercase NiKo, not uppercase
Yeah,
NiKo, to be clear.
This is
Yeah,
not even the
Hunden
old school
NiKo,
C
Hunden
NiKo. This
NiKo.
is the so
Yeah,
like,
I was just saying for, like, viewers,
Yeah.
not NiKo who moved to Falcons.
Yeah, although
Yes.
maybe he should learn Danish.
That's the other point. And so they got Shush and Refresh from Mad Lions, and they won the Pro League over Gambit in the best 5 when Gambit was the best team in the world, right? And then obviously they stayed around the top 5 for about a year after. Then you remember Heroic were stagnating for a while. They stuck like 7th in the world for a while, right? They're still making some playoffs, but they just got hard stuck. And what happens is instead of going for like an obvious choice, they got rid of Refresh, which makes sense, and they added Yabby, who was like the 4th best player on Copenhagen Flames at the time, or like maybe 3rd best player on
Yes,
that team.
that
Right?
was when everyone was talking about Zyphon being the one
I
who
didn't
should
even
find
realize
the
Dupree and Zyphon were on Heroic for like a
move.
month.
No, that was
Yeah.
the awkward times where they didn't have anything to do.
Yeah, because you remember the
But
best player
that's-
on the team was Roy initially. Or like Stockholm, the best player was Roy because he was
Yeah,
an inhuman
Nico does,
entry, right?
Roy.
Then NiKo was the second best player because he was like the sick Danish opera. Remember, everyone thought he should go to
Yeah.
Australis when Device was out. And so the third best player was either Yabby or Zyphon, depending on conversations. But like Yabby was at best considered a side grade, and then they won 2 tournaments with him, and they were the number 1 team in the world. Think about it, and then obviously the rework, as you mentioned before, we had to get Kicks in from a tier 2 team. Admittedly, he was performing well in tier 2, but still a tier 2 IGL relatively, right? Nerds, who admittedly was good in ends, but everyone knows like Saw is a good coach, Snappy's a good IGL. How do you? Admittedly, he's still the same coach, but how do you do it in a different IGL, right? You're the 2 role players on Heroic, and then you had Nick, who was like Riflick at the time, right? And even when they added Dexter was like on the bench for like a year.
Well,
Like,
the
this team
Dexter
should
one,
not
the
have been-
Dexter one, I would say the Dexter one is sort of maybe that's the worst thing they've done, but like you can't blame them for it.
Even all of these, come on, it still worked out. Like Heroic throughout the year,
yes.
generally were like 7th, 8th in the world for a reasonable amount of the year, generally, right? And so, like, so the point I'm trying to make is, even when Heroic got like either middling pieces or pieces that should be like the 13th best team, they still can like think about it. This Heroic roster with Yabby's probably one of the least firepower skill teams I've ever seen be the number 1 team in the world.
what I think people will find kind of interesting to look at is if you look at the heroic. I'll post a screenshot in the chat. But
Yes.
if anybody goes to the HLTV page for the team for heroic, and you look at the timing, the two big down drops in 2024 and 2025 are literally when they've got 3 players and 0 players. Like they've got
Yep.
to rebuild entirely. It's pretty impressive how they've managed to stay sort of top 20 consistently throughout the past 5 years. I
Yes.
think that sort of really
And keep in mind they did
builds
it on
my
a low
point.
budget early on.
Yeah, because that's the other thing that I think is good about Heroic. They're not afraid to make cuts early, right?
Yes.
So they if you look at their roster timeline, you can see actually they've gone through trying out players quite a lot. Like they had Robbie for a second. They had and they cut him within like a month. They tried out again Dupree and Xiphon, but then they sort of got bought out
For
anyway.
those who are
But
standings because they couldn't farm players.
yeah, but the point I mean is that like they're willing to try out these different players for
Yes.
like a while, and certain ones if they see potential in them, you know, Stown, Tessus, Cadian, obviously, they're willing to try out for long periods of time. But looking through their history, they've got a pretty consistent sign of like maybe signing on a few people in the span of a month or a few months, and then one
Yes.
or two of them will be kept for a long period of time, and the rest will be cut after like half a year maximum, really. And I think that's while that's very, very brutal, it's a very brutalist
Yeah.
style of GMing. It's definitely is worked out for them because like anybody can make cuts early, but making the
Yeah.
right cuts early is
Very
what's
important.
impressive.
Like I have to emphasize, and the reason why I'm emphasizing the money thing is keep on Heroic were the best team in the world when Charles couldn't even make it to fucking majors. And Charles had way more budget. Like on my life, Device and BlameF got way higher salaries than any of the Heroic players, and Heroic players were number 1 in the world.
Yeah.
I think that's probably true. Yes.
Like, but I know BlameF and like Device like reporting like 30K plus a month and won't even qualify for majors.
That's true. I mean, there was other stuff going on as well in those teams, but that part was definitely like undeniably true.
Yep.
I don't think here's the thing, and this is not Heroic's fault. They're making good moves. It's not even necessarily the great moves. It's just that everybody else is so bad at making moves that making good moves is like elevates them to being like the simple of roster moves, simple 2018.
There's a reason why there's a
like,
punchline how bad Pekka is.
I mean, let's not even we could talk about that for 10 years, man. That's
Yeah, exactly.
what I mean.
Like
They
how
got Mount.
for example,
They
I
got
remember
MOUZ at
Moses made the
least.
joke about when Charles didn't make Rio that like they missed like 4 different times they could have got either Copenhagen Flames players or like they could have got
Yes,
like
they've
tier 2
like
players.
their academy team was full of players that they could have given chances to a different
They
time.
literally had
But
Xiphon and they gave Kobe Flames.
yes, exactly. But like, I mean, I would say on the rug thing, pretty much everyone at this point, even before Saw, they were doing a good job. Now that they have Saw, it's sort of like, you know, you could put that handshake meme or whatever you want to put. Like,
Yeah.
they have multiple ways to do it, and now that people have sort of, back when it was a snappy Saw thing, and people were like, you know, that's the tag team duo that's scouting and figuring stuff out, and
Yeah.
now people are they're selling on snappy. They're like, Saw's the one. I do think it's kind of both probably played a part for that duo, but I think
Yeah.
Saw has kept the source, and Snappy is kind of he has to earn the source back now,
Yes.
right? He has to prove that he's still got something to do in CS2, but I think the Heroics, I think it's 100%. That's true. Pretty much 90% is probably the way I put it, because I wouldn't say it's 100%. They've had a few like moments of like, you know, not the perfect move, but like that's life, right? You can't expect 100% from managing a roster because stuff is not in your control all the time as well. So I think it's true. Yeah. Okay, Kenny, you have anything?
Got anything to say?
Yeah, before, because I think it's a slam
Only
dunk
stuff.
point.
Yeah, I think that's majority stuff has been said really about Heroic
Yeah.
and their GMing, but I think lastly, at the end of the day, any team that you have is a business,
Yes.
and
True.
if you run the way you run your business and will be shown by end of year in your revenue, profits, and some other statistics that will show basically how well is your team run. You can maybe have a bad team, but if you can run it like pure business like Cloud9 does, and I'm and you can they probably earn still money, even so they've done all those weird moves. They've been unsuccessful. They still earned money. I think Heroic, one thing they've done for sure with these two roster rotations in past year or so, um, they've earned money. They sold Yabi and Staln for solid 2 million, I think it was.
Mhm.
And then they sold this, if it's true, they've sold this team, this core of 3 players for 10 million, which is crazy money.
No.
10 million
That's
is
combined with all the others.
that's insane. I've heard 4 million, but 10 million would be
No. I'm
insane.
pretty sure the max I heard was between the two was 5.
I mean, okay, still, 5
Because I think
for
the reason
3
why
players
I remember
Either
or
way,
no
it's a lot.
Even even a million per player is fucking insane.
Yes.
Considering the players you're getting.
I mean, they're right to be a bit
100%.
extortionate, but yeah.
And they've got also with the previous squad, they've got into top 8 of
Yeah, Valorant.
Major, which is another massive amount of money.
The main
dropping on
reason
their lap.
that they were able to charge basically what they wanted is because of Falcons needing a core which had
Yes.
ranking because they want to buy their way
Yeah.
into events rather than actually working their
Yeah.
way up.
It's actually
but
yeah, go on.
And Falcons
But-
is a team that you can get as much money as you want, pretty much.
Yes.
Yeah, the only
but
reason
I-
they couldn't charge more is because I think Falcons could have still found a way to get in by unbenching players. If they couldn't unbench players, they could have charged them even more.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
were
I
saying
know,
something,
but-
I think.
I think we're
No.
I think the point's sort of
Yeah.
rounding down. But I mean, what do you guys think?
I think
Sort
I think it's true.
I think
yeah.
it's a fair
I
point.
think it's a fair, it's a good
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
90% makes total sense.
All right, then I think we finally found something to agree upon. It's a rare moment, but there we go. Okay, Kenny, you're 90% to finish us off on the 90s.
Didn't
I
King
think
already do his 90? He did the Vitality. No way.
No,
what?
no. That was mine.
no,
Was the
Vitality and coaching went on a massive
That was
long
just a
tangent.
tangent.
No, because my point was about Spirit. Someone else did the Vitality. point.
Mine.
Yeah.
Oh, it's yours.
That's
Oh,
right.
you're right. You're right.
Yeah. I was talking about ropz changing nothing, and we just talked about a lot of vitality stuff in the mid
Oh, you're right,
points.
you're right.
Yeah.
I think my 90% point is really Valve are slow at implementing necessary changes to the game. Train is still not in rotation in Premier is an
Yep, that's
abomination.
annoying.
True.
That's really ridiculous that professional teams are playing and the game itself doesn't have the opportunity to have the same map pool as professional esports does. It's ridiculous in my opinion.
Also,
The
in-game
season
DM still sucks.
True, but I mean,
Yeah, I mean season 1, how long is it gonna go?
Yep.
We've been in season 1 for a year now.
More than you. It's like a year, like 4 months almost. Like
Yeah. It's ridiculous. It's like we expected the consistent changes to the seasons happen like every 6 months, every rotation of the major. I think that was the initial thing the devs said they're gonna do, and we're not getting that. Also.
I don't think the devs ever said anything about it. I think there's a lot
they
of
definitely didn't
speculation
say
on.
anything. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it doesn't make sense to have no season in the world goes longer than a year. Like, there is no sport in the world that has a season longer than a year.
yes,
Like, that's mental thing.
that's ridiculous.
Regardless of.
Also, I remember Austin.
I'll
did,
finish my point.
Yeah,
I'll
Sorry, my
finish
fault.
my point. Yeah. I think it's not. What is annoying is a simple stuff that cannot be done. That can be done quickly, literally in a week's time, is not being done for a very, very long time. I mean, that's the biggest problem I have currently with Valve. That it's not about bugs or stuff that could be problematic to solve. It's just a simple things could be done quickly, and they're not being done quickly. And for some reason, they're being stagnated. And we don't have any communication because it's Valve. They don't want to do any appropriate communication
Classic.
with the fans. I don't blame them. I mean, I know how toxic the CS community is. It's like,
Yeah, there's AIDS.
yeah, but it's still, there is certain level, I feel like, of respect you still need to have to your fan base and communicate with them and try to explain maybe certain aspects of why decisions are made and why we are not doing this and why when to expect maybe changes. Like make a roadmap. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, we get roadmaps by looking at, on a train map, the way it's written on in a Russian language, written their roadmap. Like, yeah, sure. And then there is no concrete dates or anything to expect. It's like, yeah, it will be done in next 5 years, guys. I mean, yeah. To wrap it up, basically, slow at implementing necessary changes to the game. Season 1 is still ongoing for no reason. Irregular decisions, lack of content, and communication. I think that's
So,
pretty much.
so is this 90% agree with you? Is the take?
Yeah, yeah. That's my 90%.
I would say, while I agree with parts of that, CS2 has definitely been updated a lot more frequently than CS:GO was, even near the
Yeah.
beginning. There's been they're still getting used to Source 2. I mean, it's still being sort of built. I'm not saying that they don't need to give more communication. That's definitely important. A roadmap or something like that would be very important. But I don't think a roadmap realistically is the sort of thing that Valve is going to do, because that's not how their structure works internally. People work on projects when they want to work on it. They have a bit more structure these
Yeah,
days.
I think now
but
I think it's
as far
that's
as I know,
part of it is a bit outdated, that sort of thing. But it's still going to
Yeah.
be true a little bit.
Yeah.
even if it's not true in terms of the literal structure, the mindset's still gonna
Yes.
need some time to change. So I think I get where you're coming from, but I think what they think are important changes are different from what the average player would consider
Yes.
are important changes.
They're
that
they're
makes
in
sense.
like they're not really 100%. No, not even 100%. They're not majorly in tune with either the pro scene nor the casual scene. They're sort of taking bits and pieces here and there. And I mean, this year is the closest that we've been to having Valve actively intervening in Counter-Strike Pro, like circuits. Like it's the most active they've
Definitely.
ever
There's been a
been.
massive improvement with them
Yeah.
Yeah.
showing their rules and actually seeming to enforce them, like sending out that letter being like, we expect
Yeah.
immediate
Exactly.
resolution of this. Like they're definitely improving in that regard. There's places where they could do better.
Yeah, and I think in
but
game wise,
compare
definitely
this
could be better.
compare this to Valve from say 2018. I think you'll find it's a vast improvement.
It's
A
true.
lot of
Yeah.
people like to shit talk about like, oh, the CS:GO was better. No, it wasn't. Like, bro, the amount of times that I would try and launch the game and it would crash sometimes, and like, CS:GO and all that sort of stuff. Like,
Yeah,
people
remember
like
Cisco
to look.
hitbox were so bad.
Yeah, that was back what 2016, something like that.
Yeah, I remember Alu got fucking CS:GO to the major final.
Yes.
Yeah, it's the point being that I think that they've come a long way. They still have definitely places they'd need to improve, but this is one of the things where I don't think it would be 90% in my opinion.
Well, I think people agreeing with definitely is like 120%. I don't even think there's that many people who, like still.
Oh, right, yeah. I think a lot of people agree with you. Personally, I don't think that it should be.
Yeah, that's true. I mean,
yeah.
Like in terms of whether they should do update, I think a lot of the simple and small updates they can do stuff like putting train in the premier pool. I genuinely think it's just a matter of them not thinking about doing it. It's not a difficulty thing.
But
Like
I mean,
if
how
you,
can you not think of stuff like that?
I
could
think
be- it's-
personally it's not even about that. I think that it's about the fact that train isn't ready.
It's
They
true.
know
If it's
it's
not
not
ready, then they
really
wouldn't say
ready.
that it's there for the major. I think the only reason that they said there as well, because you remember the Sponge tweet being like at Counter-Strike, if we want change,
Yeah.
if you're gonna do a map pool change, please announce at the start of the season. And then literally like they liked the tweet 2 days later, minus Vertigo plus train. I think that's literally
Yeah.
why it's there now. If it wasn't there, we would have
I
had it
think
in
at
like 2
first-
months.
Yeah, I think at first they wanted to have it before the major, but I would imagine, this is pure speculation, but I would imagine that there was some discourse between teams after that tweet, and they would figure out, or at least it helped them realize that teams would rather have, like when Vertigo and when AWPers first got added to CS:GO respectively, they went through Overpass especially was broken as
Yes.
fuck when it
Yeah, open was
when it
ridiculous.
first
You had like a
launched.
hut on the A side.
Yeah. I think that they've realized teams would rather at least be able to play the general overview of the map and face the changes, or at least this is kind of hopeful thinking on my
No,
part, I guess.
my more
That they
maybe
would rather go through those
yes.
changes and at least be able to adapt to them, rather than be thrown in at the deep end when it gets closer to the major and just be like, well, we're playing train now instead of Vertigo.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
my
but
perspective is a
it
bit more
makes sense.
pessimistic. Yeah, go on.
No. I was gonna say it makes total sense from perspective of like you want the best way to make it to know the weaknesses of the map and changes that you really need to implement for the map is to bring them up to the people to play. Like professional players, playing it, learning the map, getting showcasing the weaknesses and what changes could be made potentially to improve the map. That's the best way to really go forward with any new map you have, in a pool. But that doesn't take away the fact that they are not putting it for the
Yes,
majority
exactly. They don't put it in
fan base
Premiere
to
and
play.
stuff like that.
Like it doesn't make sense to me that they're still keeping Vertigo, which is out of professional cycle, and I don't think it's well liked by majority of the fans. Also,
Yes.
If you want to hear my theory is that they obviously have like a silent internal roadmap of how they want to do things, but it's not going to be like stringent, and they're not going to release it to us. My theory is that they were planning to do sort of all this stuff at the time in which all of it was ready. Like in 2 months, there would have been like new season and train is into things, so that it happens at the same time when they feel like the map's ready. But then they had the tweet come in, and then they were like, how much can we compromise like our internal plans for it, but then sort of have a handshake on the pro scene and then have it all work? Like, because I think they would have announced train in like 2 months, but they were like, okay, we're gonna announce it even though we don't think it's ready. We're gonna say that it's in for the pro scene, but we're gonna keep developing the game the way that we planned initially. It's just that because if you let it for the pro scene, it doesn't affect how they work internally. They were just like, okay, you can have this if you need, if it's so helpful to you. Here, minus Vertigo plus train. We're gonna keep developing our like internal stuff the way we've always been. I think that's how it actually is, but that's just my guess.
or you know what is Sorry, I'll be quick. You know what is funny about all of this?
Yeah.
We're obviously speculating on what Valve is thinking, and reality will probably be the person who's got the button for the change is on a holiday. Like some comedy like that.
I think honestly, and this might be a bit controversial, I'd rather that the maps get released to the pro scene before it gets released to Premiere, and honestly even to because it is a sign that Valve is taking the pro scene more seriously.
Yes.
And it's a sign that they would value the changes needed for the pro scene over the competitive scene. Over the like average player scene.
Yes.
Now, there's always an argument to be said about, the balance between a map being competitive and a map being fun. But there's always, but if you want fun maps, you can always play, the community maps or the the ones which aren't in the map pool but which are in competitive,
the
like
reserve
for
maps,
instance,
whatever they're called. Yeah.
yeah, the reserve. Yeah, I've forgotten the name for the group, but the reserve maps and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lot of maps in there which are very unlikely to ever go into the pro scene, but
Yeah.
which are fun to play.
It's true.
And I think that they have their own niches, and it's good that Valve seem to be prioritizing at the moment the pro scene in terms of the map pool, because for a decade or so, it seemed like they would just make changes to the map pool based on what was popular in for the masses, right? It wasn't
Yes,
necessarily
it
what was
felt like it was
popular.
like they took 100,000 matchmaking games, and then they were like, okay, this is the data we're working with, and maybe that's a
Yeah.
shift in philosophy now that
Yep.
they're putting it into the pro scene.
And I think that that's if that's the interpretation is correct that I'm making, that's a good sign
Yeah,
in my opinion.
that would be progress in, at least for us. I mean,
Yeah,
pro
for
scene
the pro
people.
scene.
Yeah.
Or yeah, because at the end of the day, I think their previous approach was not wrong. Also, I think when
Yeah,
you're
there's
doing
pros
it
and
for
cons
masses in
to
general,
either way.
yeah, because if you're doing for masses, you're doing it for the majority of the player base, who probably is the one also paying you your salaries, kind of
Against.
in a way.
Oh.
Like as much as you can appease esports, at the end of the day, you're a business, and you need to look at the statistics of what brings you the money.
Right, but in terms of changes, like I won't lie, I would imagine that the majority of people are playing competitive compared to Premier, right?
I don't even know
I'm
what the
sure.
numbers
I
are.
disagree.
I think it
I
might be
disagree.
more Premier just because it's it's like the default.
Yes,
So-
Premier is default.
Maybe, I don't know. I just
But we have no
I
idea.
I
think
think
that
pre CS2 I would agree with you.
Oh yeah, but pre CS2 Premier was like not that much. It was like a weird thing.
It was weird, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, but
but
in CS2 people lock in because it creates this competitiveness idea of competitiveness where you ban the maps.
Yeah,
You
it's got a
can like
rating as well.
build
Like there's all,
the ratings of we need to ensure that they are not playing Dust 2. Look at the red line going
yeah,
towards to
stuff
the
like that.
top of the Paris Tower. You know, like people who play CS, a majority of the people who play CS, they've got a competitive itch.
Yeah, I think the quote unquote competitive where ranks are on each map has become the middle ground between like fully casual like mini game stuff
Yes.
and like people who just want to play CS like they've always been like queuing in.
I think there's a level of sweatness,
Yeah.
and competitive currently is like you're just chilling.
Yeah, I don't think
You
people
are
don't get
having-
mad if you
Yeah.
don't try hard
having
in competitive
fun.
as much as
Yeah.
they would definitely get mad in
Yeah.
Premier.
Now, if you go to Premiere, people try to sweat
Yeah.
hard, and then there is face it obviously when the real sweats are like. But
Mm.
in general, Premiere is what highest level of the play you can do in Valve that Valve provides you. You know?
Yes. Yeah. But like I think it's fair. I think the people definitely like in their minds as soon as CS2 announced, everyone obviously got their hopes up. They were like, this means we're getting more, faster, better, etc. I think we
Yeah.
definitely have like it's incrementally compared to before. It is more faster and I would say better. But like obviously it's not got like if you're comparing it to like if you're a gamer and you're comparing it to other games, that's where the problems start to arise. You start like
Yeah.
I don't want to talk too much about other games because I don't even like it's not even relevant. But like,
This
if
is
you're
a
talking
PS
about like Marvel
podcast.
Rivals and stuff like that, it's like a wholly different comparison that doesn't make sense to make. But if you're just someone who's playing games, it makes sense to make it because then you're in this comparative mindset.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're a Counter-Strike player, you don't it doesn't even cross your mind really.
Yeah.
But,
I think that there's, as I said at the beginning, there's definitely advantages and disadvantages to both. But I think that Counter-Strike's always lent itself to being as balanced a game as possible. And focusing on the pro scene for that is always going to lend towards being sort of more balanced in that regard, at least.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, I think it's fair. I don't know. Would you agree, guys?
I
let's
think I
make it
agree, but I
short.
think it's not I don't agree in the sense of like I don't think it's a problem, but I think what you're saying is true. Like
I kind of disagree
okay,
because
go
like
on.
I'm gonna make my point.
Yeah.
Because there's two reasons why I actually mostly disagree with your 90% point. Is one, like compare Valve to Riot. I'd rather have a Valve than a Riot.
Oh yeah, but that's like separate,
Like
right?
if Riot is like the other direction, I'd rather just have be like an abandoned child than be Riot. You know what I'm talking about? Like I'd rather
Yeah,
just be just.
but you're looking at two extremes now. It's like both are extremes.
But the problem is
Yeah,
like
but
Valve
I
isn't
would
as extreme as they
say
used to be.
Valve's becoming a lot more moderate these
Yes,
days, and I
I
think
agree
that
with
it's the
that.
sort of thing that they are changing for the better, and I think that we should give them props for that. I think
Yes.
that while there's improvements which need to be made, I think that
Yes.
you've got to be realistic about the psychology of a dev team
Yeah.
who's been working in a certain way for 2 decades,
Yeah.
almost 3
Just
decades.
let's think about it for a sec, right? Think about it. Whenever CS:GO as an in-game or like out-of-game has issues, Valve's actually pretty quick when it comes to fixes. Like
For serious
remember
stuff,
when like the R8
yes.
was busted? That was like busted for like 2 days and they fixed it. Then remember like the first time the R was busted for like a week, they fixed it.
Yeah, but for
Oh,
like
like the
nice to
CZ was
haves,
busted.
they're
That was
gonna
for like
take
3
forever.
months, if you remember. Remember when the CZ was really broken out of the old draw speed and stuff? That was for like 4 months maybe. Like no, so that could have been lasted way longer if you think about it, right?
Well, 4 months
Tech
is a
time
while.
Yeah, I
wasn't
mean
that busted.
they didn't fix the hit rack from 2012 when it came out to
That's a lot.
2016, 17. Like 5
Yeah.
years. You want to tell me that's how long it required to
But the
fix
point
hit?
is that it's sped up a lot since 2012 to
No, I agree.
2016.
I think that's what's whole point of entering into Source 2 also, that you now have a opportunity to make changes much quicker without spaghetti code on a background, you know.
Yeah.
But that's
The
whole
thing is that
point, and
even
I
Valve with the
understand.
spaghetti code wasn't like as soon as, 'cause for example, right? The reason why we even realized the Krieg and the Yogg were busted, especially the Krieg, was because people weren't using them because two reasons. One, because like the stats of like, oh, they're noob
Price,
guns,
I think.
and also because the
Yeah, yeah,
AK
yeah.
was cheaper,
Yes.
right? And then what happens is they initially dropped like $200, something like that for each, I think, maybe $300, and then Allegiant immediately realized, yeah, the Ogg and Krieg are ridiculous, right? Especially the Krieg, right? And then they put the prices like back to the original price and kept it the exact same, and people still use them, right?
Yeah, and then they
Like
had
Valve
to
is
nerf. They
aware
had
of
to
like how
nerf the
good their
Krieg
weapons is,
specifically.
but even the Aug, there was the Augmenta for a
Yes,
while.
but the wasn't the August. The Aug itself was not nerfed in the same way the Krieg was, right? The gun itself.
Yeah, the Krieg got nerfed way harder. Krieg
Yes.
got bashed to the fucking ground. Yeah, but like the Aug is still somewhat usable. But the point I'm trying to make is that like Valve is
I'm pretty
aware of how
sure the
good their
org is
weapons are.
basically almost statistically exactly the
Yes,
same.
that's what I
They
was
just
trying to
raised the
say.
price again.
Okay, but then I'm gonna ask you quick questions on top of it.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you think is it a hard thing to do to change season 1 to season 2 to season
I don't
3?
think it's hard. I
Every
think
It's-
every
think
major
I
cycle.
now
think they
that
have
I think
different
they just want to find
priorities.
the right. Now that it's gone past the point of like a right time to do it. Like if it was going to happen, it would have happened at the start of the year. Now that it's not the start of the year, and like stuff's going on, now they're just gonna wait until it's a better time because it's not. It doesn't matter. Like it's
No,
nice, but it
but-
also doesn't matter at all.
Like obviously it maybe not a priority for them. I can
Yes.
understand that, but it still just showcases for me personally that there's still places for them to improve.
Correct, but
on a
that's the kind
simple,
of
small
thing.
things.
That's the kind of thing that these are like small, nice to haves. They're not bugs. They're not content necessarily. Like, because if it's not accompanied with content, then it doesn't really make a difference whether they change the season or not, right? Like
No,
if they
no, no,
just
I mean,
rebuttal back. Sorry,
Mhm.
let me because I'm gonna respond to his point, right? And I agree that should be like it's something they should do. But my rebuttal back is that like in the context of like Amazon, I think making a tactical shooter consistent is way harder than a MOBA.
yeah, the smaller
Because the thing with
changes
the
have
MOBAs,
big
like you
impacts.
think about a game like League, you have characters that are set things, and if something's broken with that set character, you just nerf the set character, and then you focus on everything else later. Because CS is a game where everyone has the same guns in theory, everyone has the same utility, the same speed, movement speed, and stuff like that. Obviously, assume it's not some wacky like side mode or something, right? Like I have the same M4, the same grenades and stuff like that, right? You have to remember, like, oh, if one weapon's broken, you have to then think about if I nerf this weapon, this other weapon gets buffed indirectly. For example, the perfect example is remember when the M4A1 meta, if you remember, right? Because before the M4A1 meta, we actually were becoming a T-sided game during the online era. Like the Verse Pro saving and like T sides winning way
Mhm.
more rounds because Verse Pro just saved 4 guns every round. You get like 8 rounds T side, even though you weren't that good on T side, if you remember, because they needed the guns. And so like that meta was even Gambit loved to do some saves as well. And then remember it was when they let you to drop nades and they buffed the A1. And then then
But like,
even when they
here's
nerfed
the thing. I
bullets,
don't think that that's what the problem is within the 90% bar. I don't think that like unless I'm
I kind
misunderstanding.
of is because I think updating the actual in game is still kind of part of the question.
Yeah, I don't think but I think balance versus content is a different thing.
Yeah.
At least Kenny, if I'm not misunderstanding your point, I think are you
Yeah.
talking about? I don't think you were talking about the balance of like guns or specifically that. I think it was more
No,
like other stuff.
I think that because that part I can see that Valve was actually working. Like
Yeah.
I know I've seen them for last year and a half that game come out how much they put work from perspective of improving the game, internal part of the game, which they've done. But I do think there is certain things that doesn't take long time to do that could be done in that span of period and is not being done. And one of them is obviously like the communication,
Train thing,
which
I
is
agree.
train thing, and then the seasons. Like you don't.
Yeah.
What you need to do is just reset the rankings of everyone.
Yeah.
Say seasons 2 started. You don't need anything else to do.
But
in
here's
that
the
regard.
thing. I think if you did that, then people would be like, you just reset the season, nothing happened. It just reset. Like I think if they were going to do that, I think their vision might be. My guess is like they want to reset the season and accompany it with something else. Like post major, they might have some content for a season to end. If the season just resets for the sake of it resetting, there's no like post season reward. There's nothing else apart from your rank is reset, regain your rank by playing a premier game. I don't think that would like people would say the same thing. They would say, "Oh, you just reset the season, nothing happened." So then if you
I mean, the people will complain anyways.
Yeah.
Like,
so then it
doesn't
doesn't matter.
matter.
Is what I'm trying to say. Unless there's something else to go along with it, and that
Okay.
I agree that
But
there should be, but.
Then you can always do the armory changes. Like it's got what that armory that consistently changing. You can always add certain aspects of it.
And I
like
think that's kind of their
finish,
plan, but they don't have it ready yet,
Yeah.
which is what they should be doing. But like, yeah. So like, I agree, but I'm just saying like I don't think of it as a huge problem, even though I agree that it's true. To put it that way, to round it
Also,
off.
last thing
fair
I'll
enough.
kind of sneak is
Yeah.
say your Sif? Who's talking?
No, you can go.
Yeah, just finish us
Okay.
off.
The point I'm making, and also I think maybe Sif may have said this when it comes to the train and like it probably was supposed to come out later. I'm actually really happy they just like obviously I prefer it to also be a premiere, but I'm happy they're at least testing this map because if you remember, ESO and Clone 2014 had Cobble and like overpass like a month before the major. If you remember, like it was like a month prior. Like there was no tournaments that had Cobble and overpass before Cologne, right? Even events like the Gfinity, remember that was like a few weeks before, like even that event didn't have overpass and cobblestone. It had like the old 5 map pool, if you remember, right?
Yes.
And so by the time Clone came out, no one played buggy cobblestone and buggy overpass. Like you remember Nip Lee won the major off of 3 buggy cobblestone.
With the randomizer, all right.
The randomizer obviously was BM, but they won off of 3 buggy cobblestones, and 2 of them were deciders from randomizer.
Yeah,
I mean,
On top of that, because the Cobble and Overpass just came out, remember Verse Pro literally
It's
the old
definitely
didn't play
it's
Dust,
definitely an improvement than what we have now compared to what we had before.
For example,
it
like,
can be
and
more.
on top of that, remember the
but
second example I use is when they first added the rework nuke, like a month
Which
before
one?
Cologne 2016,
Oh yeah, I'm just
and like literally no one wanted to play it because the map was kind of garbled because it had like the rails, it had like a window and hut, it had like the vents that lead directly to the lower site, it had like the little like room that's inside the lower site that's like a little
Yes.
box. If you remember?
Looking back at those screenshots makes it seem like it's a fake workshop map.
Like it looks crazy, and like there was even like some wasn't there like a wait what I remember there was some like even crazier stuff I don't remember. Those are just the main ones I remember, right? Like
But that's kind of
like
that's besides the
CZ
point, right? I get what
Yeah.
you're saying. Yeah.
I remember Clone 2016, like the only notable thing with nuke is that one Team Liquid used it to beat Navi in the quarters, and Flipside did like a rogue nuke pick and they lost in like overtime. Like people weren't even trying to play this map. I remember and the only event that was before that used it was ECS like maybe a week prior, and that was it. Like there wasn't a lot of time
but
to
the
get to run the
train's
map,
benefit
right?
is that it's replacing Vertigo, so people are going to pick train because they have
True.
it's
And also
an
like
easier flex
them
map.
allowing the pros to play it means if G2, for example, who's been getting dicked on Ancient for the last couple of months, they're gonna have to either figure out the ancient or play train.
I think it's maybe the best time for people to start thinking about vetoes and stuff like that. But that's expanding the point. So I think
Yeah, that's
we'll move on to. I think it was you who started with your 90%, right, Baller? So it will be your 50% then.
My 50%.
Doing it in order.
My
Yeah,
50%
yeah,
is
Let's
that
go.
MOUZ will win an arena event this season.
That's 50%. I don't know. Okay, explain, because I'm my instinct is to disagree.
Right, I'm assuming you're disagreeing since you think it's less than 50, or
I
maybe
think that
it's
I just
more
don't
than
think they're
50.
going to.
So you think it's less than 50?
Yes, I don't believe it. But like, just tell me why you think it's happening.
I assume this group would say maybe, hey, it's a bit higher than 50 because you know, like MOUZ are
I'm
consistent enough,
really
they got
down
enough
on
chances.
MOUZ. But that's
Because the
me.
thing, I will defend MOUZ a bit. You're probably thinking, hey, they just lost a bet boom. They must be a really bad team right now. My rebuttal is that MOUZ has always been weirdly bad online. Think about it, right?
Yeah,
first
but
IEM
my disbelief in MOUZ has nothing to do with the Blast event. My disbelief in MOUZ has been going on since they lost in Dallas last year.
Okay, the Dallas lost. Here's the thing, right? They lost the best one in 90, and 90 looked unreal that event. I'm going to just round of applause. 90 looked amazing, right? Even when they lost to G2,
Yeah.
they looked better against
But
G2
since
than
then it's been pretty sourceless. And they've won like stuff here and there, but they've never shown to me that they've elevated. And so
because here's the thing. I think all of MOUZ's issues are two things. One, I think MOUZ have lost faith in their map pool for some reason. Like, remember when MOUZ used to have like 5 really good maps, like the beginning of 2024.
Sure.
Remember they used to have, they had like Nuke was getting really good around Pro League. They had Mirage in the pocket, but MOUZ were like really good on Vertigo. They were underrated on Overpass. They had like Ancient in the back pocket. They had so many good maps. Like they had like one map they didn't play was Inferno early on, right? Then if you remember, they stopped playing Ancient after they lost to Stu 2K in Dallas. They just stopped playing it for some reason, even though they're really good on this map. They stopped playing Vertigo because of the update, right? When they changed like the middle and stuff like that, and they stopped playing it.
Well, they were the one of the few
up
teams
and
that
down
still
on
played it a
fucking
little
Mirage.
bit, to be fair. But yeah.
Played it a bit, but like they were mainly just losing the complexity on that map. But that's not the point, right? And then remember they got really up and down on Mirage. Like they could beat Spirit in overtime, but then they can like, you know what I mean? They can lose to like anybody sometimes on that map, right? They were like really up and down on it. And the key thing is MOUZ were one of the teams that actually got hurt from losing Overpass because MOUZ are very up and down on Dust 2. Like they can randomly win on it, but they can also get curb stomped by Vitality with Jax, right?
Yes.
And so I think MOUZ got obviously losing Overpass a hurt because MOUZ never picked it, but they won a lot of deciders on that map. Like they won that Chengdu's decider against G2 on that map. They won like against Gamer Legion, like Double OT at Katowice. They won like some key like deciders on Overpass. Like put a couple BO1s on Overpass at the major and like the RMR and stuff, right? They actually like I remember before they removed it, MOUZ were 6-1 on Overpass in 2024, and the only time they lost when they picked it against FaZe at the Chengdu final. That's the only time they picked it and they lost. Funny enough. But still, they were 6-1 on that map, and they lost it. And that obviously hurts them a bit, right? And so the problem is, like, and the thing is, the one positive MOUZ got was that they got good on Inferno at the end of the year. Like, they beat NaVi on it, they beat G2 on, sorry, they beat Vitality on it, they beat FaZe on it. They actually got good on it at the end of the year, but that was like the one positive. And the problem is, MOUZ have never really recovered the map pool fully. But the thing is, I think MOUZ can recover the map pool because I think they still can play Mirage. They still have Nuke in the pocket. They actually got good on it at the end of the year. They beat Vitality a bunch of times on it. They beat FaZe a couple times on it. Like, they actually got some, like, key wins. They spanked Spirit in Shanghai on that map. So I know they can be good on Nuke. I know that they can be good on Mirage. I know they're going to work their ass off on Train because they have to be in a news. I know they're going to work on that map, right? So I think there's enough good maps to do it. And the second thing is, I can't imagine Xerxes is going to always choke in arenas. I think at some point he's going to get
hasn't
over
it? Well, he was okay in some, but I still think he's lacked. Like, he definitely lacks.
No, because Xerxes, Xerxes is still pretty bad. Like, he was worse before, but like he's still pretty. Like, the moment I realized Xerxes still has choking issues was when they played Spirit in the semifinal of Shanghai, where like obviously he had a pretty bad ancient, like 4 kills.
Yes, it was.
Like,
it was.
Looked like the better team.
27 and 42, -15 for Xerxes rolls is really bad. Like for impact in map.
-15 from the series.
Yes,
but I remember the H game he had 4 kills. I remember
that might be. Let me double check. You might be right because that was 30. That was a 13-4. So I think there wasn't anybody.
Yeah, like, he got like 4 kills. He got rinsed in the middle every time he gets knocked, and like I remember that felt like more like Spirit outplaying. But I remember, if you remember the deciding Mirage game, MOUZ were up 5-2, if you remember, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's 5-2.
They're like 5-3 or 5-2. And then they lose an eco against like some Tech 9s. That's fine, right? That's like, it's Mirage. You're going to lose some Tech 9s. The next round is like a force, and it's like a game-swinging force, and it's a 1v1, and Xerxes fucking jumps from Khan and loses the duel against
Oh
Chopper
yes,
with no kill.
okay, I do remember that.
And like and then MOUZ collapse on the floor as soon as that happens. They lose they win 2 rounds for this game. They fucking collapse on the floor as soon as that happens. And I remember the moment that made me realize it is when MOUZ was down 6-9 and they just won a round, and this is after they lost Pistol in the second round. I think Pistol second round, maybe the third round, because they remember they did the 4 second round, and then they win the first gun round. And this is obviously like the swing round, right? Because neither team has great money. It's like 6-9, and Xerxes long range with the M4 loses to Chopper with a Mac 10.
Yeah, but he definitely individually is still yet to prove that he can do it. But my
So
point,
the
okay,
point is like I watched the game. It
Yeah,
has
yeah,
to be a
yeah.
Xerxes issue.
but
Like,
my point was, I
Toys
don't
had
think the
good games in
roster
range.
itself has. Okay, here's the pros for MOUZ for this season. They've a lot of their opponents are sort of up and down. Spirit's still really good. They're going.
Yeah.
I don't believe that they have the special like secret sauce to beat Spirit. I don't think that's going to change this season. Neither team
I don't think
has
any
changed.
team has a sauce to be Spirit. But that's not the
Right
point.
now, Navi is still together as a roster. Vitality, I just said that they would have the same results, and MOUZ did, what do you call it? MOUZ, I think, did MOUZ lose to... MOUZ lost to Vitality in one of these events. I don't think so. They
The
lost to
World Final,
Navi
they got
and they
spanked
lost...
by the Jax Vitality, if you remember. Torgy had a pretty bad series.
Yeah, something like that.
The only LAN event which, the only 2 LAN events which MOUZ have won with this roster
there's
are
back-to-back
ESL
events,
Pro League Season
And November
19 and
Dacha event, back-to-back.
Dacha. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, go on, Shift.
I would say I agree with the 50%, to be honest. Just because they've still been able to get to sort of finals.
They do win arena games now.
They got to second in IEM Rio.
Got semis of Cologne.
And they got third, fourth in the Shanghai Major.
Yeah.
It's difficult to say simply because we're right at the start of the new invite system by Valve. So it's
Yes.
difficult to say which events they're going to. So we can't necessarily... Theoretically, it should be easier because
There's
these
more
events should be announcing the invites a lot earlier than usual.
Yeah.
But they still haven't for a lot of these things.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully that'll change soon, or Valve will punish them. But I don't know. I see your vision. I see it. I want MOUZ. I've been down on MOUZ a lot last year, 2 years. I do want them to succeed. It's just they haven't yet shown me that they really can break through. I want them to do it.
Yes.
But I think they could win an event. It just depends who their opponents are.
The thing is, I actually think MOUZ are the biggest beneficiary of NaVi being in a relative slump. Because MOUZ is a pretty bad record against them, like 1-3, I think, in series against them. Another one was literally at the RMR, so I feel like that's kind of an asterisk, right? And the thing is, I do agree MOUZ don't have the sauce against Spirit, but that's because I think Spirit's just too good right now. I think someone has to just nerf the fuck out of Donk right now. He's playing too good right now. But
they've nerfed him twice already. Right? That's not gonna work.
Like no one can stop Donk. Like I think the only team that could even has the potential even to do it is if Vitality gets their shit together. And because this is a fact, right? Vitality's won 1 playoff game since Cologne.
How many have they played? That was the question.
They played 5.
Okay, well, that's pretty good.
They played Pro League and they lost immediately to Eternal Fire. They won all the games at Fall Finals and they lost
Eternal
immediately
Fire
to
was having that
G2.
crazy run in EPL though, to be fair.
No, because they won all the games in EPL and they immediately lost to Eternal Fire when they had a free bracket to the final.
It was nobody expected it though. Like they were playing good, but that was still the best like Eternal Fires ever looked, and they haven't returned to that kind of.
EF played amazing in that tournament. EF should have won that tournament, if I'm being honest. EF were so much better than Navi in that final. Navi pulled Magic in that final.
The way that they got through that is because they were constantly getting the maps which they were good on.
Yeah,
and
there was
some
brute forcing going
EF,
on.
I agree, got a good veto. Like this is they forced the Mirage ban and they somehow managed to get rounds against Navi and Ancient. But like Navi should have won that final 3-0. Like
it's true. Navi looked worse than they did normally, but they still made the.
Oh, I didn't mean in the Navi specifically. I meant for the event.
Yeah,
like they were.
In the event in general, here's the thing, right? What are consistent, right? EF's 2 worst maps. We all agree on Nuke and Mirage.
This is a
right?
big tangent.
It is a tangent, but I mean, if you want to talk about it, yes, we can talk
Okay.
about. But MOUZ,
So they played Nuke against Sangle and they smoked them, right? They played
Sangle, yeah.
Mirage against NaVi in the groups and they got smoked, right? They had to play one of Nuke or Mirage against Vitai, but they got the free Mirage ban because Vitai has to do the Ancient ban, right? And both teams ban Ancient. And EF do play it. So they forced Vitai to ban it, and not Vitai did the Nuke pick because Vitai's going to Nuke. They smoked them, and then they played a side that EF likes because EF does 2 bans smartly. And the last maps, either you play Vertigo against EF, that's a bad idea, or you play them on Inferno. And Vitai would rather play them on Inferno and they won the veto, right? And we picked Nuke against them, which is not a good EF map. They're like 50% winner on that map. Smoked them MBR. They won I think MBR won both pistols and they got like 7 rounds or something ridiculous. NaVi picked Nuke, and this is when NaVi was like winning Nuke games at the time, right? And they had like a alright win rate on it, and they got smoked on. Major got like 23 kills, or something ridiculous, right? So teams did try to punch them on Nuke or Mirage a couple times, and they won a bunch of them somehow. Like
Yeah. They were on a hit or that event. But getting back to MOUZ in this season, let me just look at how many LAN events are we talking? Because I mean, this is like a countable thing, so I got to check.
Here's the thing. So we have Melbourne is an arena event, right?
Yes, it is. I should be going.
Dallas is an arena event. That's 2.
Yes. Okay. Well, I mean, if I'm just looking at the calendar, HOTV's got one.
Katowice is an arena event.
Yeah.
That's
So
3.
we got Kato. We got the PGL
Austin
event.
is an arena event. That's 4.
Oh, is the Blast Lisbon is a LAN event?
Is an arena? Yes, it's 5.
Arena? Yes.
Because remember, the same arena was in the Spring Farm, if you remember, right? Where like Simple with SDY one, and that was an arena.
Yeah. Okay. So I
think
think
it was like 1,000 or so people.
I agree with your point now, and that's because I think Steve reminded me about the fact that teams can decline some of these tournaments, and I think MOUZ's best chance of winning a tournament is if Spirit declines.
Also, I think the Astana event is also an arena. So even if MOUZ declined Dallas, Astana's like a few days.
I don't think MOUZ would
so
decline an event. I think
the only events which they've accepted so far are Katowice and Pro League 21.
But those are the only
and
ones
Pro
that
League's
have been
not
announced,
an arena
right?
event, so you can write that off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I agree with your
think
point. Just because the field is weak enough, and if Spirit don't go to an event and MOUZ do go to, they have a decent chance of winning. Just because there's like not much else going on.
Also, I think is even if MOUZ skips like one of these, what are the chances Xerxin just chokes all of these events?
I would say higher than he doesn't.
I get what you mean that Xerxin choked. Think about it. I don't think MOUZ.
But he's had multiple chances now. I guess
my rebuttal back is 2 things. One, I think MOUZ in the last 6 months weren't as good as a team overall as the first.
But something would have to change for that to change, right? And nothing changed. I don't know.
I think I feel like it's not that MOUZ got worse. I think MOUZ as a team got worse, and I think they can bounce back as a team. I don't. So the thing is, I think if they can be at least not as good as they were in the first like 2024, because the group stage that team was unreal, but like at least be like 80% as good, and you get like some good arena games from Berlin, because Berlin is not a choker. Like Torch is not a choker.
But Berlin is not that good either. He's a choker, but he's not elite.
But like Berlin is not a choker though. That's the thing.
Like this team doesn't have enough. This team doesn't have elite players. It has good players at best, and that's a difficult thing as well because you don't have a crutch to rely on in those stage games if things don't go your way. Shui is
by far the best player, but he's not playing well enough arenas. And I think MOUZ would be good enough as a team to give him enough chances to get over it. Because there's 2 ways a player like Xerxin does is either he gets over it or he doesn't get over it. There's no in between. Like, you know how Device couldn't get over it early on? He was literally just choking any game that mattered, and then he fucking got over it. And then he never choked ever again, pretty much. Like,
yeah, but I think that's a special case.
Like, I know he had that bad
most players don't just switch from that.
Yeah, Device is a big exception.
Yeah, he's like one of the history.
He's one of the most consistent players in history.
I don't think you can use it. Anyway, I think you made a fair point. Kenny, I think we haven't come to you much for the MOUZ one. What do you got to say on that?
I mean, I don't think the current MOUZ lineup really can win anything.
I'm sort of there.
I'm not even talking about arena. I think anything at this point.
I think they can win Pro League. I think they can win Pro League.
No, so Kenny, explain to me. Are there 6 teams that are better than MOUZ right now?
Yeah.
I actually agree.
Okay, so list them.
It's the top 7.
Yeah.
Every single team
Spirit
in the top
Phase,
7.
Vitality,
I think Mongols are better than MOUZ.
I don't know if Mongols are better than MOUZ, but I can tell you that Spirit,
I think Mongols are getting better, and I don't think MOUZ are getting better.
Spirit, G2, NaVi, Vitality.
Okay.
Phase is better.
Okay, that's a debate in and of itself.
Yeah, I mean, you can say. Considering
I-
that I
I-
don't
I
rate
can see
Kenny
that, but, like-
this is you need to understand. This is how low I rate current MOUZ lineup.
Okay.
I think the current MOUZ lineup is dead in certain aspects of
I
it.
can
But
understand that, but here's the thing. The problem is FaZe has been so shit for like 6 months now. They've had like
I
two
mean, they have
decent
they have
tournaments, and, like,
elites now, and
9
things are
tournaments.
changing, so that's kind of it's hard. You can't use the previous results to determine.
And the problem
their
is, like,
current
the thing
stands.
is, I think FaZe is like the only way FaZe can be good. It has to be in a different way because
Yes,
they're adding a more
because of
aggressive
because
player.
things have changed.
Yes, and so the problem is, like,
Also, I
trust
will say
Kerrigan to
head to
make me good.
head, they haven't MOUZ have beaten FaZe in one
Twice.
match.
And twice.
What was the second one?
One match. As
No,
in,
they've beaten them
like,
twice. MOUZ
the
beat
past
FaZe at
year.
Rio, and they beat them at World Final.
World Final was 2023.
No, it was 2024. They played the group
Look,
stage.
you can see in the head-to-head on HLTV.
Yeah, but it wouldn't. Let me double
There's
check.
IEM Rio, Chengdu, Katowice, and 2 World Finals.
No, because
Kato-
World Final was 2024. No, I remember
Yes,
it was in the group
Blast
stage.
World
Remember the
Final
Future-
last year they did beat FaZe 2-0.
Yeah, that's
So
what I'm saying.
You said it was
That's
2023. because FaZe beat MOUZ in 2023.
I
Yeah,
think he's talking about the other
in
way
the
around.
series. I'm talking series.
Yeah,
What was the
MOUZ
other?
beat
What was
two
the other
series.
series that MOUZ beat FaZe in?
Oh shit! Yeah, I'm misreading. What the fuck?
It was IEM Rio.
Yeah,
It was
sorry.
in the decider game. Because remember, MOUZ beat
Rio,
Vitai right
yeah.
after.
Yeah.
yeah, but I mean, currently FaZe is gonna have they are having their
I
own
don't-
change.
Do we
of
have
team
okay?
and stuff.
Before we go
But,
into
but
FaZe,
I'll quickly explain why MOUZ personally.
Yeah.
I don't rate. Personally, I don't rate Torsi highly. I
I
just
can
do
see
not
it because Torji's a very unbalanced player. I get
yeah.
what you mean.
Well, my next
he's very
point is sort of
inconsistent.
Torsi related, so we can save a
So
little
let's
bit.
brief
Yeah,
it.
let's go. Yeah.
I think
let's
no.
jump
Well,
on that.
if you want to finish off the MOUZ point, because it's not
No,
fully.
I'll be done. Because my problem is
I think-
I can't in good faith put FaZe above MOUZ. Because I could understand the other four. Admit, I'm super down on G2. I think G2 is going to be terrible.
I don't think they're
this season.
terrible. I think they're not gonna be. They're gonna be a little bit worse. I don't think they're gonna be that much.
I think they'll be
Yes.
worse than MOUZ.
No.
I disagree.
That's
Bro,
wild
NiKo was
statement.
such an
No,
important part of G2.
No,
They
but
literally
he can be.
cannot win,
The thing is, NiKo was great, but if you're talking about team wise, the glaring and obvious flaws in G2 is Snacks and Taz. Everything else, and to some extent Hunter.
And Hunter.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
MOUZ,
can't be
Monacy, and
ignoring
Heavy God are really, like, role-wise, they hold a lot of really
Yes.
pivotal positions on the map, obviously. And I think MOUZ is going to be consistent this year. Monacy, we don't even need to talk
I
about.
don't agree.
You don't agree MOUZ is going
I
to be
don't
consistent?
know about MOUZ.
No, 'cause I think MOUZ will
I'm not
fucking
saying he'll
choke
match
like a
NiKo.
motherfucker.
I've said before about MOUZ, I think people are rating him possibly too highly for, like, when
It
he
is a bit
first hit the
premature, I
scene,
agree.
he was getting way too, like, high results for, like, what he was doing.
Yeah.
I fear that he's going to be another Yekindar.
Yeah, but if we do
in the
we have
sen-
any G2 points just 'cause-
I've said that before.
Yeah.
but
I'm just saying.
yeah,
that
sorry.
Otherwise, we'll just end up talking about G2 because everyone can talk about G2 forever. It's like the curse of the show. Like,
Yeah, but my
go-
problem is I think MOUZ is gonna choke like a motherfucker. I think he's gonna because MOUZ is allowed to
yeah,
have
it's
some
true.
good
There's
early
more
games,
pressure
there's
on
no
him now
pressure
that
on
NiKo
him.
is gone. That's true.
Because NiKo and Mossy were the guys who had to put like the whippings if they lost. Like if NiKo's about to win a game, I remember when NiKo had that terrible Katowice quarterfinal where he getting out-fragged by Kerrigan. We all roasted him for like a month. That shit.
It's true, but he did.
We're going a lot of tangents on main topics. I think that we need more.
Yeah.
Sure, but like the important to make is that I think MOUZ is balanced enough, and I think there's enough decent matchups for MOUZ will at least win one. I'm not expecting them to be the best. I'm not expecting MOUZ to even be that good for the season. I just think there's enough flawed teams, and I also
I
have
think
no
you
faith in
convinced me
FaZe,
with
like-
50% for one of the events, just
Yeah.
because there's chances
Yeah,
that
that's
people
fair.
won't attend. But apart from that, I don't.
Mhm.
I don't believe that they're a winning team. But that's aside. Okay, I think we'll move on to my point now. And this one is sort of, you might need to pull up some rankings or whatnot, but I think there's a 50% chance that this year's top 20 HOTV will have less AWPers than last year. And so just so we are on the same page, last year there was 6 AWPers on the top 20: Monacy, Zywoo, Brokey, Shuro, Wonderful, and Torzi. And I think 50% chance that there'll be less in 2025. So like just to,
That's
yeah.
very forward-looking.
It is, but we're looking forward. We can only look forward, But anyway,
Yeah, but
actually think
that's
that should be a
like
90%.
a full year away.
But okay, let me to just like I'll give you the basic preamble, but a lot of this is sort of obvious stuff because we've already sort of gone over, what's going on with AWPers. I think we have the three untouchable AWPers for me right now, and Shiro is like the weakest leg on this stool, so to speak. But we
Yeah.
have Monacy and Zaiwu, obviously. And then we have Shiro is sort of creeping. He's like in and out. I think he probably would still make the top 20, but obviously it's impossible to say now. But I'm saying it, right? But then
I will say Device is regaining form.
Yeah,
since,
but his team needs to
he
find
was ill
placements,
in like.
in my opinion.
I think Strauss is
Oh, yeah,
underrated, but that's
definitely.
the point.
Yeah, but then if we're talking about like the other three that made it, we got Brokey, Wonderful, and Torzi. I think to me it feels likely that one of those wouldn't make it, and then if you're looking at the AWPers outside of those six, it starts to get like pretty rough. Like I listed the current top 20 HOTV teams AWPers, right? So we have 9-10 who won't make it even if the team does well. He's not the star of Mongols. We have
I think 19 could like sneak in like a Torji type
maybe,
number
but
20.
I think
like.
if Mongols does well, you would definitely get like a Senzu
They'll
or
get
someone
Senzu
else,
rather than
right?
19.
And I don't think 9-10 would make it. But that's just me. I've watched a lot of Mongols games. That's my judgment. But
Fair
it could
enough.
be wrong,
I
right?
get what you mean because the Mongols at their peak, it like because like the really important games, it has to be like a Senzu.
Yes, but
Yeah,
like then we're listing the
Senzu-
rest of the AWPers. It becomes really, really like nothing's going on. We can skip Fallen. Ultimate is like I don't think Ultimate's got it to get top 20.
Yeah, Ultimate style is just
No.
too noob stompy.
I think Device, he individually might have it, but the team results really struggle, and he also is struggling as well. It's like he can be good. He's had a
definitely. I won't deny that.
yeah. We have Dexter,
but he's
who's
improving a lot. It seems.
Dexter, I don't think Dexter's
possible.
is possible, but it would have to be really fringe, and the team would have to really perform.
Yeah, like Dexter's been being better the last few months. Like he had a good Rio,
Yeah,
he had a
but
good
it's
Shanghai,
still not
but
quite
like
great.
he's
and
not
then,
quite.
And then from there, it just becomes like just really, really looking.
no,
at
I think
terrible
Walks can do it.
it. Really?
No.
I don't think so.
No, let me make my case, please.
No. The fact that he was
was looking
the fact that he
pretty
was
crazy.
on the top 30
I wanna
fringe
make case.
rating with like a 0.9, that was a fucking travesty that they put Woxic up there, but doing absolutely nothing the entire year. I guess by virtue of like
No. Let me make my case, right?
Go on.
So Woxic, when they had the two finals finishes, played Inhuman CS. You remember? At
Yeah.
the Belgrade event and the EPL, Woxic literally was out
two events
frying,
the
like,
entire
he was king of
year, and it
fucking
gets him
Zywoo.
top 20 because the
Woxic
rest
is known for being pretty inconsistent. Is the problem?
It didn't
No,
make
'cause the
it.
problem is
Okay,
actually
this
they watched
year
us from
would have been his
Cologne
best
playing
chance,
up
and
to
he didn't
about Pro
make
League,
it.
and this was off like 3 to 4 events. Like even at IEM Rio, like go from the Cologne play-in to IEM Rio, Woxic was really consistent for like 4 events, and then he dropped off a cliff. And I think it's more because the team looked really bad, in my opinion.
Yeah, but I mean, Woxic has been part of this team for a while.
True.
He's-
You remember
he's-
you watched
HLTV
EF when they had their
top 20
struggles.
takes-
It looked like the team was
HLTV
malfunctioning.
top 20 takes team results into account.
True.
Is the problem.
Yes, that's
That's true.
part of why I'm saying Device and Dexter have a hard time making it. And then after that, you got
Like, I
like
think Woxic's more likely than the other two.
I don't think any of them are that likely. And then that point,
Like, I think I agree. Neither of them will. I don't think any of the three have like above like 20% chance of making it. I just think Woxic's better than the other two because
And then the rest of the
Woxic has
names
whole
are, like,
ass
really
maps
rough.
this year where he's keep you up with like wonderful fucking Zywoo, fucking Monacy
Yeah,
and shit.
but like,
dead
come
ass.
on.
I
If
agree,
you
across the
look
board,
me in the
I
eyes and
agree.
you tell me 2025 Vox is a top 20 player, I'll give you the cassette. Are you insane? Speech like
I'm not saying I'm saying he's more likely to do it than Dexter and Device.
I still disagree, but that's besides the point.
Like
Then
Dexter,
we got like
seriously, I think
IC,
is
Zordi,
Dexter a hot take,
Maka,
really?
like
'Cause I think
AWPers wise.
like Device, I can see what you mean because Device is more consistent, but the problem is like Device's best games against like the top teams aren't as good as Woxic's.
I don't think that's true.
Are you sure, bro? I can link you whole ass series Woxic,
But that's
fragged
because-
at a
I
level
mean-
above Device.
Maybe like 2-3 series ceiling wise, but like you can.
I can link you games. I'm not even joking. Like Woxic had whole ass maps this year and like games where he's out fragging like Torji, out fragging
Yeah, I mean,
fucking
yeah,
Zywoo.
you can have maps that you are fragging somebody, but I don't think that's like
Like,
pointless
I'm not-
evidence.
these are
It's
important
meaningless
games. These are like
evidence. for me.
playoff games. These aren't even like random group
Which
stages.
playoffs though?
Okay, I'm
I remember
just
they
gonna.
played the
Yeah, yeah,
Belgrade
Sif,
final
Sif,
and
go
Woxic
ahead.
out fragged Torji. And the whole like bet in the
Yeah,
when they
Bolo,
2-0
wait a
MOUZ,
sec.
he out-fragged Torji.
Sif is saying something. Yeah, go on.
The highest rating against a team you can really okay, he got some insane rating. He got 1.92 versus Mongols. He got 2.36 versus Sangal.
Mhm.
He crushed G2, I won't deny.
Okay.
Yeah, he
Uh,
slammed them with Rio. This is when Jesus just won fall finals. He blitzed them.
I don't know.
He looked good against Vitality too.
I
And the two
think
maps they won,
Eternal
he played
Fire
human
is
skills.
incredibly good at like best of ones, at that sort of style of gameplay, which
Like,
means
bro,
that
look at the two maps Vitality, like EF1 against Vitality. These are close games. Look at the stats. Box had insane games.
I see your point, but I think it's more about consistency.
Yeah, I don't think it
best of five
matters.
players NaVi in a
Yeah, I don't
loss.
think
Look at his
even if
stats
you're
in that
right,
final.
I don't think it makes a difference.
Like, I agree he won't make it, but I think it's disrespectful to just completely write him off and say he's worse than Dexter, who had never had a series that good.
Okay, I
I'm
don't
not
think he's.
saying
I'm
he's
not saying he's
worse
worse
than
than Dexter actually, but I think he is worse than Device for a team at least.
Fair enough.
Okay, look, I'm just checking the 2024 maps wise because you might be right in terms of ceiling.
I have a player
Yeah,
that
go
I'd
ahead.
like to add into that list of AWPers that I think has a bit of a possibility of getting into top 20, depending on if the current lineup works out. Is Sampires.
I was thinking about Sampires, but
It all comes down to whether this heroic squad that they've got actually manages to pull it off.
I don't
Honestly.
think Sapias could do it because I think Sapias' style in CSGO doesn't translate to CS2 because
Sampires
it's a style
hasn't
that's
been
like
good either.
Disagree.
Like, generally,
I disagree. The way he played in Falcons just before getting kicked out, he's got it. Like
he looked decent in
he's-
Falcons, but the problem is like here's the thing. I remember I looked at stats for like specifically AWPers on the CT side and T side. I remember I looked around Pro League. You know, this is like a few months ago, right? Around Pro League 20. I remember like Sapias' stats on both T and CT looked good, but like his kills per round was really fucking bad. Admittedly, Falcons weren't winning games, so that could be a factor. But like he just was not getting a lot of kills. And I remember, for example, I looked at Woxic. His T side, he had no impact. On C side, he literally was dropping like fucking Zywo numbers on C side. Like you know what I'm talking about? It was some crazy shit where he was actually getting more kills across both halves than Sapias was. Like, you know what I'm talking about? I literally looked at like the divide and shit. It's crazy.
Okay, but what do you
for
think
me,
about the
Eternal-
point? What do you think about the point?
I think
I
agree
Because it's a
with it,
50%.
honestly.
It's a 50%.
I think it will be or same or below because the way how dominant riflers are in a game at the moment, and
yeah.
it's just riflers have more opportunity to shine than AWPers do at the moment.
Yeah, peeker's advantage, flashes are really important in this game. Also,
Yeah.
like
Yeah. All
also
that
like the
stuff.
bounce peak. Like there's so many ways.
Yeah.
And OB just does not feel the same in this
Yeah.
game.
Also,
than
bro,
it was
like
in
I
CS2.
swear, like after this session, like backpackbrain, just go to a random like pug and use an op for more than a few rounds. It's fucking impossible.
I
to
actually
see
like
what a
it. I'm not
fucking
even
op.
gonna lie. My opus felt
Bro,
pretty
how,
good.
like I swear,
It's
every time I try to
definitely-
play like a
the
DM or like
movement is
a
the
few
thing
rounds in
that's
like a face it
changed.
game, it feels so inconsistent.
Inconsistent may be true, but I mean, the fact that Modesty is so good leads me to believe that there's still some part of skill issue going on. But like,
True, but also in fair defense, Monty as Shanghai barely used the op, but that's not the point.
yeah, I think overall,
I mean,
still the point.
yeah.
But anyway, yeah, it's just because I think this one, I think it's pretty straightforward. Before we
Yeah, we all agree.
move on. I think did you say whether you agreed or not with the point? Because you talked about device a bit.
I'm not 100% sure mainly because we don't know how updates are going to affect.
Yeah, I was
that
sort of
style
considering
stuff,
whether
and we
Valve
don't know
updates could
about
change
roster
stuff.
changes either.
Yeah,
So,
but like, yeah, go on.
but 50%, I could see it.
Yeah. Okay. I think was it you next, Sift? Or was it Kenny next?
If I'm
Possibly,
lost.
yeah.
Yeah. I think you're next, Sift, because Kenny went last because he's got
I
like
don't.
multiple.
I don't
ones.
even know. This is a weak as fuck. 50%.
Or maybe
honestly,
that's fine. If it's weak, maybe we can be on schedule for once. Keep going.
Yeah, Spirit will get to the finals of Blast Bounty Season 1 finals,
50%.
which is a bit of the mouthful. 50%. I think it's almost too reasonable.
Yeah, we had 90%. They're gonna win Kato without, and then we have 50%. They'll make the final of this blast of it. We can see
I
the
guess
difference.
I'm
they
being
at
a
least
lot.
win this event. I think it's disrespectful because this field is so weak.
The finals field is pretty weak.
I think
Because think about it, if Spirit are gonna play likely heroic,
Finals
there's
field-
no
The
I
top
mean, it
teams are
depends who
there.
they
I guess.
face up.
It's okay, I guess. I mean, Bad Boom's been neutered.
They got Spirit, G2, Navi, Vitality, and
that's kind of it.
Heroic and Eternal Fire.
Heroic and EF can maybe. I mean,
Don't downplay Pain like that. That's disrespectful.
I'm downplaying Pain. I don't care.
I'm downplaying.
Oh, David is
I'm
my goat.
sorry.
Why are you doing like that?
They did play really well in the online stage. That's fair.
Also, the problem with Pain is that like Pain always felt like a team that couldn't compete because they always lacked a star player. Because they have a decent balance, they have a decent map pool, but like they didn't even have the firepower to outfrack fucking Fury players. Like David is like a difference maker. But that's my point.
But I'm saying like, there's 3 matchups. You have the potential.
Yes.
I mean, it's probably unlikely, but you have the potential for having like Spirit versus G2, Spirit versus Navi, Spirit versus Vitality, and that's a pretty stacked set of like matches in a row to win.
You have to
Best of
only have to play
threes?
2 of them though.
How does this format work, by the way? Because this is
No, because the way it works is that like after the quarterfinal game, the 3rd and 4th seed pick the 1 or 2 seed.
Oh yeah, okay, that's true.
Because
Right,
let's assume
okay.
that Boom picks G2, right? Let's assume Pain picks Vitality
That
because
would be
Pain
a
tried to play
wild
Navi
thing.
Clone, they got rinsed. Let's assume they pick Vitality. Let's assume EF plays Navi, and let's assume Heroic plays Spirit. Let's assume all the favorites win the games, right?
Yeah.
Then what happens is I think Vitality's the 3rd seed and Spirit's the 4th seed because it's based on the December ranking, right? Which means Vitality is going to pick G2, and it means Spirit's going to have to pick Navi, right? Let's assume these are the case.
Yeah, it seems reasonable enough.
And so what happens is that G2, let's assume Vitality beats G2 because G2 look really bad right now. Let's assume Vitality beats G2, right?
Sure.
And let's assume this case Spirit plays Navi, Spirit have a good record against them. I don't even know where Navi can even go in this fucking veto, for being honest. Like, where does Navi even go? Like,
Train. I don't know.
I think it's
Navi don't
very,
play that.
very difficult to guess
Yeah,
because
it's difficult. But
especially as the previous event was an all online event.
yes.
Online versus LAN, I think there's a
Yes,
massive
right.
difference. I think Monacy outright said that. Going back to the AWP very, very slightly, he did say something about like
The AWP was inconsistent or he's a
the
noob or
AWP
something.
feeling really,
Yeah,
really
yeah.
different. I don't know if that was specifically online or if it's a more recent
I
update.
assume it's just an online thing because, like, bro, the
Yeah.
op online is so inconsistent.
Yeah, I know. Trust me, I have mained AWP for a very long time.
main door, like it's a character in a game. Main door is so funny, but anyway.
But it's fucking AWPer role, isn't it?
Yeah, it's called Opa, but it's like saying it's like it reminds you of the old ass like XM and 2 flashes or what's the meme?
I had like a Litify recap where it was like number of kills with AWP versus number of kills with rifle, with all rifles, and I had like more AWP kills than with all rifles for the year.
Bro, are you JDM?
He's JDM maxing.
No,
Isn't
I can
isn't
shoot
JDM
with the
more
JDM?
rifle.
50 kills than rifle kills?
I mean, I had like, I don't know, 12,000 kills with both.
Yeah.
So
Anyway, I think
It's-
you're underselling it for the 50%. I think Spirit are favorites in every single matchup that they could possibly have, and so if I consider that, I don't even think it's like fair to put it at 50% reaching the final. 50% winning I would still even put it a little bit higher, but because like if we're looking at every lineup, G2 Vitality are the ones out of the top 4. They're the ones that made the change. Navi, I can't get a grasp on Navi. I would need to see them play in one of these games for me to be like, do they have anything yet, or is it like, you know?
Also, I'm not convinced Navi. Because think about it, right? Because let's assume we do like normal ban, Spirit play Navi, right? Just a brief breakdown. This will be like 30 seconds. Do like Spirit does an Inferno ban. Blade's too strict. He's not gonna allow a train flow. He's just gonna ban train because Navi don't.
It's
fuck
gonna
around
be
with games
Ancient
like
Dust. Spirit picks Ancient, Navi will pick Dust. Then they ban probably the next 2
that.
maps.
Navi
in
probably bans
rotation.
Anubis, and then like it's probably a nuke
Yes.
decider.
I think this is
Nuke or Mirage decided. But it's I doubt Navi
this is
will
getting
let.
into like
Yeah.
specifics. I think it's
But the problem is like
Just-
Navi has nowhere they can go in this veto. They have to play all
But
of
like,
Spirit
forget
that's
about
not-
Spirit Navi. We're just talking about generally what Spirit could do in the.
I
The
think
thing is, to win this event, let's
it's
assume
way
they have to
too
beat
early to
2 of the
say
3
what
teams.
we know about people's vetoes in this. As I said, I don't think that they were going to be pulling out their best map pick like stuff for an online.
This one is
event.
LAN, but like.
Yes, but considering
I guess
this is
you-
LAN and they're
I know,
playing
never mind.
rivals, I think they're
figured out
going
what
to
you
have a
meant.
real
Yes.
veto here.
I'm talking. Yeah,
I figured that out.
here they're gonna have a real veto, but I'm saying as in, it's been what, like 2 months, 3
Yes.
months.
Yeah, but
Well, no, yeah, you know, they've had a break to figure out the flaws they've got in their maps. I think that their ancient looked. I don't know. It looked.
Well, I think
It's very
Navi can still
difficult
get
to
busy
tell.
on Ancient. I agree.
yeah. Anyway, I think Bola, I think we can figure out where you stand on this considering your earlier points, and I think I also said much the same. Kenny, what do you think? You think it's underselling 50%? They'll make the final.
No, I think it's fair.
You think
I
it's
think
fair?
it's more than fair.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's definitely my weakest take.
Yeah,
this
but
episode.
I think I mean, it's in character. Let's put it that way. All things being measured with your perspective. Where I'm
takes
just
until it comes to
yeah,
Astralis or Face.
that's true. I mean,
They're
Like the
still gonna
only way I think you could downplay
Grand
Spirit.
Slam. FaZe are
Like,
gonna
the
get a
only way I
Grand
think
Slam
you
of
could
Yeah,
Spirit.
realistically downplay. The only way I think you realistically downplay Spirit making the final, winning the event is either one, you think Shear's overrated, or two, you think Magix can't keep it up, or three, you think Vitality or Navi have figured it out.
or G2 are just individual them and Snacks 1.5 rating.
I think that I don't know. I think that there's there's just a lot more swinginess with MR12. You know,
I agree.
I think
I agree with you.
I think on a map by map basis, I think best of 3 series. I don't think it's
Because of a full series, I think
Cause-
MR12 actually isn't as important.
Yes.
Like, the more I realize that, like, winning both pistols in like a certain map actually can still result in a close game is like that Cologne final. Like, where, like, Vitality had, like, 4-0 starts
Well,
like every
there's lots
half,
of
and Navi
lots
still
of
could grind.
force buys, lots of ways to win rounds nowadays. It's very
Yeah,
rare
force
that you have
buys,
a
winning
non-thing,
clutches. Like, there's
nothing
like Navi
buy.
won so many clutches in that Mirage game because they lost both pistols, and Navi, I think you try losing both pistols in conversions, they're still up 12-10 in regulation.
Yeah, anything is possible. But anyway, I think we'll move on
Yeah.
to
Enough.
our last 50% point. Kenny, what you got for us?
I mean, I was thinking of doing something regarding female CS and stuff for 50%.
Yeah.
But I decided I'll dodge it because it's going to be a long discussion.
Yep.
So we will not be seeing NiKo in top 8 HLTV.
Top
Mostly
which
due to
8?
team results. Top 8.
Ooh.
50%. Okay, explain.
Yeah, but I'll explain. I think it's mostly due to team results of Falcons.
Yeah, I can
Probably
see
being
that.
too low to qualify NiKo as an individual for top 8. And then Dexter will have a problem at least with one of the visa issues on one of the events.
Didn't he sort that stuff
True.
out already?
I mean, I'm not sure.
I
But
mean, I don't think he can
considering his
unsort
history, it
itself.
doesn't.
I think it was just. I think that one has been solved, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, and then lastly,
Yeah,
is
but I
only to the
mean,
pro.
future events. I'm guessing.
I was like, the Danish people hate Russians.
I just don't think Falcons as a team
Out of nowhere.
will be
Anyway.
performing well enough for NiKo to be in top 8. And I think this year has shown a great example of that with Elish in complexity. Because
Yes.
Elish, I think, should have been much higher than he was.
Yeah, I had him like 15 or like 14. That was like lowballing it.
I
Yeah,
would
and-
say, to be
And I
fair.
think
Yeah, go on, Sift.
Sorry,
sorry.
I don't mean to.
No, it's
No,
good.
I'm conducting.
with the one thing that's in Falcon's favor over complexity is obviously complexity is an NA team, so they were going against majority NA teams.
Mhm.
So at the very least, the results for Falcons theoretically would be weighted better because they're going versus EU teams. But I agree with you about the them probably not having that many great deep runs at tournaments with this lineup.
Yeah, I agree with you for a different reason. I think NiKo is going to become washed this year, but that I don't even think it's going to be down to Falcons. I think Falcons are going to be fine results wise. They're going to be like top 15. Maybe they'll get some playoffs here and there. They'll scrape something. I think there's a good chance like next season they might make roster changes to further improve the lineup. They'll reevaluate some. They'll knock on some doors and be like, "Are you open, guys?" You ready to be bought out? They failed last
Yeah.
time, but I think next season he's gonna keep trying because it's just what they're doing.
They're
right?
gonna keep trying.
Yeah,
I think they're
exactly.
definitely gonna want to get a better AWPer and
Well, they're
a
gonna want to get
better
and literally any upgrade. They just
IGL.
want to keep. They're literally just gonna knock on the best players in the world's doors every single time and be like, "Hey,
Yeah.
you guys want to join yet? You guys want to join yet? We're gonna double your salary compared to last time or whatever, right?" But that, I just think,
The funny thing
Yeah,
is,
yeah.
the longer that goes on, the less. Because one thing is that people tend. Maybe this is a crazy conspiracy theory, but sports players tend to be pretty superstitious, right?
Yes.
Everybody's got their
pretty
lucky,
common.
you know, their lucky
we
mouse,
always
their
see
lucky.
pros. I mean, Carrigan's got his rocks, hasn't he?
Yeah, yeah.
But remember
yeah.
when Carey used to
He's-
have a tambourine?
That was online era stuff as well, right? He like hype people.
No, he had.
Yeah.
No, remember he was in 24, 24. He had like a weird like
Oh,
little
that
tambourine,
maybe that
little
long
like
ago,
spinner
true.
thing.
But I don't remember.
Yeah,
But anyway,
and like one of the players has like that squeaky like chicken or whatever, and all these sorts of things. I think the longer that Falcons goes on, honestly, some of the results, like especially back when they had like Simple on their team and they didn't win a single map,
They won
it's
one or
beginning
two maps.
more and more
total.
to look like a curse. And there ain't no amount of money that can really overcome a superstitious player's fear of a curse.
well,
Really?
sometimes, but not always. I get what
Yeah,
you mean.
mental game is important.
Yeah, and I think also aside
Yeah.
from the curse thing, I think
This is really
yeah,
sorry,
yeah. But I think aside from
conspiratorial.
the curse thing, as well, people like the longer and longer like legendary names stop winning, the more the illusion will disappear from people's minds. Like if like Zonic for years and years has had the aura enough to have people be like come to him because he's Zonic. But if Zonic keeps doing nothing with things that like this Falcons team is not bad. It's not great. Maybe it's not the best team in the world material, but like, so there's no reason Zonic can't make some results happen with his team. And so if these teams keep failing, so people are gonna stop thinking about Zonic as like an obvious place to join, where you will get coached with the miracle source that won Astralis 4 majors. You're gonna be like, well, that was like years ago. These Falcon results suck. You know, I could join some other
Also,
team.
like Device is better than every player on Falcons, arguably.
Well, NiKo's joined now, and I don't think that even
But like,
if he's
bro,
not top
NiKo.
eight.
Here's the thing: unless you think like 2018 and like 2017 Counter Strike is like dog water and like doesn't mean anything, like Device was really consistent. back
Yeah,
then.
but that doesn't matter now. It doesn't. It has literally no bearing.
Also,
Oh, you're
Dupree's
talking about
arguably like
Device
just as
back
good as
then
NiKo is now. But
versus
that's
the
the
team
point.
now, right? Not Device now versus NiKo now.
I'm talking now.
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about
'cause
like
now-
think about it, right?
You mean like
Even when
prestige
it was
wise?
the Caribbean line, Device was so good.
Yeah, but I'm talking about right now.
We're talking about now. I think, yeah, it's. I agree with the point.
Yeah,
I
I
think,
actually agree.
But I don't think he's going to become washed. That's a wild statement to make.
I'm not
outrageous.
saying he's gonna. I think he could just go straight to like number 19, and then we'll never
No,
see him again.
this-
That's that. But like I think the
That
clocks.
is-
I think the bells are tolling, in my opinion.
The
but,
bells are tolling, sure, but like going straight from like top 10
but like it has to
to
happen.
Top 5.
washed is a wild statement.
But I think
Like,
this
you
is the
don't
beginning of the
generally
end,
see
which is
people
why I
fall that
agree.
far.
I'm not saying it won't be top 20 this year. I'm saying there's a fairly good chance of that. But like I'm still saying, well, the take was top
No
8,
shot.
50%, and I think
I think him moving to Falcons was definitely a bad decision.
well, it depends.
That's
it,
it in
I'll say
retrospect. Thing.
it depends on how long
It was
his career
not in
lasts.
retrospect thing. I thought it was
no,
a bad
because
decision.
I'll make.
He should
I'll
have done it
let
1 year
Backpack Brain
earlier.
finish and then I'll hop in.
Yeah, I think. Well, no, you go because I would just say he should have done it 1 year earlier. Then it would have made sense.
Yeah, because
for
here's
his
the
career.
thing. My first thing when it comes to the concept of NiKo being washed, first off, NiKo's style of CS is just everlasting. It's a classic like crosshair placement, good decisions. So unless NiKo gets lazy and just doesn't study the game, he's always going to be at least very good. Like it's you know what
Well-
Device still even now can still drop 20 against a very good team.
I'm not saying
It's
NiKo couldn't do
Device's
that.
style is consistent.
I mean,
What's that?
that's
I'm,
like
when I say
saying
wash, I don't mean
JW
dog
could-
shit. I'm just using a
No,
buzzword.
that's disrespectful. That's so disrespectful to NiKo. That's ridiculous.
I'm just saying
Comparing
relative. I'm just saying
JW
relative to what he's been.
No,
like,
I'm saying JW could wreck any like Premier player, right?
No,
like,
that's
just
no one.
'cause-
That's not. No,
I know that's not
no,
what he's
'cause
saying. That's true, but
No, because the difference is JW style was gimmicky as fuck.
Yeah, but
What
but
are
you
doing?
don't. At some point, NiKo's not going to be a top 20 player anymore. I don't
I
think that
agree at
he's.
some point, but the difference is that JW style was late entry.
Yeah, but forget
opping.
about the
He was
JW
entry
comparison.
with a broken CZ and a broken
that,
op. Like
that's
we're
what
not
Sif
gonna compare a
said,
broken
right? But
CZ, broken op in like a team with Olafmeister, Flusher, and Crims to like NiKo hard carrying a mouse sports team with doing every role, like IGLing, sometimes
yeah.
opping,
But
sometimes
like
rifling.
I'm saying that's beside the point. But like I'm saying washed relative to his performance now. I'm not saying he's going to become a literal bum fighting for his life in academy leagues like
No,
Zipix
I still don't agree with it because here's the thing, right?
But
'Cause
you
NiKo's
agree he's
style
going
is-
to get worse, right?
I think he'll get slightly worse, but I
But-
don't think he'll be washed. Because the reason why I can't in good faith is he'll get washed. Even I think realistically, NiKo still has like 2 good years being a top like 12 player in the world. Still.
2 years top
And
12. Really? 2027? You're like, or
Yes,
2026, I
because
guess.
here's my reasoning.
Yeah, okay.
One, NiKo wants to win. He's always wanted to win. You can
Yeah,
question if
I
he
don't.
wants to
I
earn
guess he's working
teammates.
for
You
himself.
can question if he should be the IGL. He always wants to win, and that passion does fire people, right? Because NiKo's
Wait,
one
it
trophy he
certainly
hasn't
fires
won is the
people.
major.
I don't know about firing them up, but it definitely people have been fired. That's for sure.
Yes, it inspires people. It makes you have to care.
Yeah,
And
sure.
the second reason is like, think about it, right? NiKo is probably the most evolved and changed player in Counter-Strike history. Because think about it.
Well-
When he first became think about it logically, right? Because Simple stylistically hasn't changed as much over the years as compared to NiKo. Device hasn't even changed as much as NiKo. I mean, Device was a hybrid player back in the day, but that's not the point. NiKo was like a fucking IGL op rifler, did everything in mouse sports.
I mean,
Then he was
he's
like
not
a
actually.
lurker.
That's true. He's versatile for a rifler, but I wouldn't call him the most like in the terms that you used. Like that seems more accurate to describe someone like Apex. You wouldn't think Apex would be an IGL. Like, but NiKo
Fair.
has been doing a lot since the beginning. Like he adjusted to a lurker.
No, but
that's not as crazy as everyone
style
else
has
says.
changed. Because remember, in Super Team phase, he was like the star lurker kind of clutch player, if you remember.
Yes.
Because like Rain was more of an entry in that team. Then obviously with the IGL, he had to be more of like he still had play star roles.
Yeah, but
he had to, like, be
that's
more of a
basically
leader.
you're describing. He did 2 things and also
but-
IGLing on top. That's not this. Anyway,
Bola,
but that's
I have a
that's aside.
question. I have a
Then-
question.
No, go
Again?
on, Kenny.
No, question to you. Do you think he's gonna be top 8 this year?
No.
Yeah, but
Okay, that's it. That's all I wanted to know.
Yeah, and I'm more just bullying backpackbrain for being wrong, respectfully.
well, no,
And so-
but I'm saying wash relative to his current performance. If he's a top 19 player,
I think he'll drop off. I think he'll be like the 11th best player.
yeah, and I think
Yeah,
this-
11th is
Wash
where I
is
see
hard
him also.
wording, but I get where you're
Yeah,
coming
I'm
from
just
back
saying
there.
it as a buzzword. I think 11th this year,
Yes.
maybe 19th next year, and then he becomes like Olafmeister.
I still don't agree. Because the reason why is because the thing is, by the time
Olafmeister
Olafmeister
has been
became washed,
benched for 3 years.
Not now,
back.
Olafmeister.
no,
Then
because the reason why
Olafmeister.
Olafmeister became washed is because Olaf genuinely wasn't having fun anymore.
Yeah,
He
well,
clearly
NiKo's
looked
not
like
gonna have
he
fun
had-
forever.
That's
But that's aside. That's aside.
to be fair, the past 2 player pictures that he's had, he hasn't looked like he's having much
And
fun.
he went to Falcons. That's like you sort of signing
Did you
away your
see
right to
the,
have
like,
fun.
look-
And
on
the
his-
problem is, like,
that's more of a
I
joke.
want to continue my point about
Yeah, go
evolution.
on.
Because remember when he first joined G2, he was back to being again like more of a somewhat lurky player, especially when they had the Jackson. Like Slap, he was more of a passive player, if you remember, right?
Yes.
And then remember when they had the hooks, he against Slime, NiKo was forced to be more aggressive, and he was still amazing.
Yeah,
right?
but those are 2 things. He went from passive
Those
to.
are, but still, the
It's
point is that he can
versatile,
shift
but
between more of,
other
like,
players have
a
done that,
passive
maybe
clutch
not to
player
that level.
and
I'm
a more
just,
aggressive
like,
entry rifler. Because you remember, there are even some maps where like certain moments where like mobs would go second and NiKo go first, and there's some maps where mobs would go first and NiKo go second, and he'd still be amazing.
Yeah. I'm not saying he's not amazing. I'm just saying all good things come to an end. Is what I'm trying to say. But
The point I'm trying to make is that if NiKo can consistently just change his style, that actually can keep like a shot in the arm, for
yes,
example.
but I
You know
think
why
I think the
Bialy had a
shot in the
short
arm
career?
has already
Bialy
been
basically
going.
was only good at just holding angles and getting headshots.
Yeah, but like at the end of the day, you do agree with the point that Kenny made. So I think that's fair.
I genuinely just think NiKo is, because the thing, right? The reason why I still think there's a Universe Simple still a very good player is like, bro, you cannot downplay like an all-time great like a Simple, like a fucking Elige, like a NiKo, because those type of players are immortal players. Like you
Well,
can't question their
I
longevity.
mean, we can clearly question Simple's longevity now. He's done a lot, but we can question his
No,
longevity.
Simple
We've seen
literally
it.
became like a top level player in 2016.
Yeah,
He literally was top 5 with
I'm not.
zero
Yeah, but
consistent
I'm not
teammates,
denying
and,
the
like,
longevity till date. But the point is, we're talking
This
And
is
he
about.
literally
getting on
stopped being a top
a
player when he
big
when he
Yeah,
tangent.
yeah. This is
stick
like
down.
historical framing and stuff like that. But that's anyway. I think we
Yeah,
all
but so
agree.
it's like we can move on.
Yeah. I think we all agree with the actual point, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, because mostly it's just a good excuse to hate on Falcons as well, which is everyone loves
Yeah.
to do so. Okay, I think this is my 10% now. Right, we on to 10%.
I want to do my 10% first or yours?
Oh yeah, you went first. Yeah, go on.
My 10%, and here's the thing, you're probably thinking, hey, how's this a 10%? I've talked to people on the Talking Counter Discord. I might even talk to Yash like separately. I watched the Talking Counter podcast with like Yanko, Moses, and Sponge, obviously. I watched the A2 podcast, obviously, with Sponge, Striker, and Prof. I watched the 2.5 Castles podcast, and this is when they had a guest with Elfish Guy, and it was with Neo Kai and Trav. And everyone thinks that the core ruling for the VRS is dog water.
So what's the 10%?
So 10%, I think the VRS ruling is better than the ESL ruling on
You're saying like it's a 10% agree, like hot take style.
10% agree. Yes,
Okay.
I think the VRS core ruling is strictly better than the ESL 20% ruling.
The player points thing. Okay, I think that is a hot take, but okay.
I literally have argued like 5 different people, and I'm the only person who agrees.
Okay, so explain to me why you think it's better then, because I'm kind of I need to think about it.
The reason why people are framing it now is because think about it. Valve always used the core rule for like the legend status and stuff like that, and there wasn't too many qualms with it. Obviously, the nitpicks. Sometimes you get like some like fluke team like a QBF that gets an extra major that they don't deserve, but like that's the problem with having like continuation and stuff like that. But that's a minority of the time. Majority of the time, you want like an Astralis that would be in the playoffs last major to be the next major. You want them to defend the crown, and they're usually good enough to justify at least defending it, right? Same with like a Team Liquid a couple times. Same with a NaVi. Same with a FaZe Clan.
What was the 10% again?
The VRS core ruling is better than the ESL.
Saying it's 10%
agree,
style. So it's like I say basically hot takeifying it, like the difference between the two core
I'm pretty sure I'm the only person. I've talked to a bunch of people that the VRS like. The way they do it with like cores for rank is, I think, strictly better than the way ESL does it with like each player is 20% of the ranking.
So like, see if you're not familiar with the ESL, you know how the ESL.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking it over.
Yeah. Well, while you're thinking, I think you have more about this if you've been arguing with people more. I think from my understanding, the problem.
I have my 2 points is I think about it, right? Because you know the historical and then even Pro League, I think. Back in the online,
we're talking like RMR. The reason people have a problem with it for this RMR is different to the reason that people have a problem with it in the past.
Yeah, because the thing, right? Like I'm more thinking about historically, and then now using an example why playing now. For example, because
now is the important part.
Because we have to kind of compare. Because remember, Valve have been consistent with the ruling for like 12 years now.
Yeah,
it's not like they've even budged really on this, right?
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's not. I don't think that makes it any difference, but
it kind of is. But that's not the point. I think because the thing, right? Obviously, there are nitpicks of like why does teams get a spot for a major 6 months after the last major. But that's obviously because back in the day we didn't have enough room for the calendar, if you remember. Because you had too many events, like ESL ran events, fucking E-League ran events, freaking Epicenter ran events. There's too many. There wasn't enough because there already wasn't that much room for like a major qualifier.
But I'm sure you're familiar with the reason that people don't like it now is because of the maneuverability for like getting invites
and the Falcons and heroic stuff. That's the main reason why people are bringing it up now.
Yes, I think that's.
And my reasoning why I actually would prefer a Falcons heroic doing this is for 2 reasons. One, the small org gets a big bag out of it, right?
No, and the small org usually has at least one. But sure.
Yes, because right, Endpoint literally made their bread and butter by just selling players.
Yeah, but that's also that's harder to sell. Okay, well, I'll let you continue, but.
And so but the thing is that is a way of making money. It's better than like Endpoint somehow ride off that 1-star player to be like 20th in the world. That kills viewership if we're being real.
What are you saying? Sorry, can you repeat that part?
And so, like, let's be honest, right? Like, and no respect to these small orgs, if Game Rage ever became the best team in the world, that is a crisis moment.
Well, that's true because they should be. Someone would buy something before they would reach that point.
Like, obviously, not just even we're in a universe where like people were more like strict with like, oh, you can't buy my player or like, or anything like that.
We are in that universe right now. People denied Falcons a lot. That's why they desperation bought.
Yes, the point I'm making is that like, if ever there was a point where like the 2 best teams of freaking. Okay, I dropped some. That's not the point. If there ever was a point where the 2 best teams in the world were like freaking like Gamer Legion and Monty, like the scene would be done. Like because like these aren't notable brands. Obviously, they could become really recognizable.
But like,
the reason why NaVi has value is obviously because they had important veteran players that lasted a long time, like Zeus, like Simple.
Yeah. Well,
but also just the logo itself.
What's that have to do with the VRS core pod and the ESL?
Because the reason why the VRS has value is because like the single players were always decent players. Like I've always thought LNZ was an underrated caller. I always thought youngster was a solid anchor, but like these young players joining a bigger organization is only going, in my opinion, will benefit them. Yes, it could hurt them.
But that's
there could be.
you're gonna weigh it against the counterfactual. So the reason that people don't want to. People don't want the core rule is because it doesn't encourage as many incremental moves throughout the season because you need to play. You need to play throughout.
Because my argument against it, because I remember Yanko made this point for Talking Counter about like, oh, why can't one team get 2 face players, 2 MOUZ players, and like a NaVi player as an example, right?
Yeah.
My rebuttal back is that like if we're doing the ESL style ranking, Snacks is worth the same amount as MOUZ.
No, I agree with part of it, and I think Valve as well sort of recognizes the value in having players that were at the top because of the way that their wildcard system works, because of the fact what's going on with Nip and Jax, right? They recognize that players that have been in the top lineup in the past should have some level of different treatment compared to just random players.
I agree.
So I think that part is true. I think the downside of using I do prefer it to the ESL ranking for major invites. The problem I have is because the entire season now is sort of, it's aligned because the rankings are universal. We have to use the Valve rankings for invites, and Valve rankings are dependent on cores, which punishes rehauling rosters to a certain extent. It incentivizes people to stick with specific cores, which I think is the problem that a lot of people have, is that if you at the start of the season want to make a mishmash roster from players from different orgs, you want to buy one player from here, one player from there. The reason the Falcons, and I realize that you don't want to use Falcons as a good example for something like this, but the reason they couldn't build something like that is because they wouldn't have any ranking to start from, and then there's the ground up path in the current circuit is really bad. What we were looking.
I agree, but that's a complete discussion. That's about like
but that's the same discussion because that's why people don't want it. The reason that people don't want it is because it punishes that building. Yeah,
hasn't it improved a lot with the new system? Like with the new rules for tier 2 teams, tier 2 events as well, and there's a lot more tier 2 events this year as well compared to previously, at least ones with more publicity and better prize pools and stuff like that. I think that part of the teams not like wanting to just start again is just an ego thing. Like,
that's true.
If they really wanted to have a great team, but oh no, they don't have the ranking points. Like, it's not like it's 2014 anymore. There is a pathway. It's improving. They just don't want to pay this money and then immediately not be able to go to the top events in the world, which is a mindset which really, like, you don't.
It's lazy.
If a football team, it is lazy. If a football team replaced like the majority of their players, which obviously happens very, very rarely, you wouldn't expect them to like immediately be in like the top events.
No, I agree. But
my main problem with the argument of like, oh, why can't a team change 3 players? They're not the same team at the point.
Yes.
In my opinion, and I agree with Valve in this case, a team is at least 3 players. Let's be honest with ourselves. The NIP core was fucking forced, get right and exist. As soon as this left, it's not the same team.
Well, I think that's
SK
also
was
dependent
fucking Cold
on,
Zero, fucking not FNX, sorry, Cold Zero for Fallen, those guys, right? As soon as Cold Zero left, it's not MMVR anymore.
Well, that's the thing. That's not. I don't know if that's true according to the rankings, but that's just what we're saying. But that depends on the order of movements.
Think about even historically, right?
Yeah, but
think about even this day, right? Like G2 right now isn't the same G2. Like G2 was.
But we're using the same from our subjective viewpoint, which we know, which is correct because of how we view it. But from Valve's perspective, it's the same team because it's the same core. They're keeping the same.
No,
ranking
what we're trying to make
forward.
is that the point is that when people use the rebuttal of like, why can't Falcons change 3 players? Because they're not the same team at that point.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that's true. But then you can't then say G2 is a different team with one roster change.
The argument for ESL World Rankings, they want Falcons to change 4 players, and they're not still Falcons. No, they're a different team at that point. If you get 2 MOUZ players and 2 FaZe players, and that's it, you've killed 2 teams.
I agree.
I'd rather you kill 1 team than kill 2 teams.
I agree in that sense as well, because just because players are good in one team doesn't mean they'll be good in another. They still have something to prove.
Also, think about it. Team NiKo 2024 had like a world-class IGL, 2 of the best North American players of all time.
And
Like,
I was on
yeah,
that. I was on the same side saying that they shouldn't. They need to prove themselves. That they, just because they
yes,
have
because when
players of
people
pedigree doesn't mean
assume
that
by
they deserve it.
birthright a lineup has to be good, it's like,
Yes, I
have we
agree.
not seen the blame out for Strawless? Have we
Yeah.
not seen like the freaking face of Cold
The
Zera and
only
NiKo?
problem I have with that is that it there, and this is probably going to improve going forward as organizations, tournament organizers follow the rules more accurately, and the scene consolidates itself. Because we've this started this, it's been like a bit crazy. You know, people don't know how to follow the rules. You know, Valve is sort of telling
Yeah.
people to get their shit together, right? But I think going into next season and the next year, and then as things go on, is going to be better for there to be like pathways for a new team to form and then play in qualifiers and then get ranked. That should be better going forward. I do think right now it's probably a little bit worse because if you look at the
Yes.
Valve ranked, you sort of you need to play it's literally just like a few like IEM qualifiers because like the CCTs just got unranked, right? The ones that just
And also PGL's a few open
Yeah.
callers.
yeah, exactly. But like the discussion that went on when we first got all these events from this year was like, there's not that many qualifiers. Teams are just inviting through Valve ranking
Yeah.
points, and that issue is then that people will keep calls around just because that's where the points have been accumulated, and it's harder to get from
Yes.
bottom to the top. But I think that's a temporary problem.
The reason there aren't many qualifiers is because there are tier 2 events which do give Valve ranking.
Which
things.
ones though?
It's just that-
This season there's not that many though.
Yes. Especially because Skysports canceled one of their events.
Yeah, because
as well as
HOTV has a Valve ranked filter. You can see, like if I'm going month by month, we got the Blast events, we got Kato, we have a bunch of qualifiers for Dallas, we got ESL Impact, which is Valve ranked, right? We have Pro League, we have more Blast events, we have PGL, we have the only out of the big three, right? The only non-big three is there's a Yala Compass close qualifier, and the Sky Sports Master, which is cancelled now. Like there's actually very few because CCT got unranked recently. There's
Yeah.
not that many pathways in for this year, especially.
Also, when people make the argument, it's not the open qualifiers. The problem is like it's not like there was like a ton of qualifiers for events even before the pandemic.
No, but CCTs got direct invites from teams that newly formed, and they can't do that
Yeah,
anymore.
obviously CC fucked up, but I'm saying like when people.
No, I'm
because
saying in the
there's a
past
group of
it didn't
people-
matter because teams with big name value got invites to low tier tournaments just because you were allowed to do that back then, and it was a common
Yes,
thing.
but
to
the
do.
thing is, there's a massive complaint by a group of people, and you know what I'm talking about, right? Those people are like, oh, why can't the fucking tier 3 get like a chance, right? Why do they have to go through so many hoops, right? I literally got a response from LMBT, legendary coach of like Mouse
Yeah,
Sports,
I know.
Hellraisers. He literally responded to me because I responded to some guy thinking, oh, there's not enough open qualifiers. I'm like, bro, PGL, Blast, ESL have a couple open qualifiers. You can go to those events,
There's
right?
a couple, yes.
There's open qualifiers for at least a few of those events, right? And LMBT's like, oh, there's not enough of them, right? Because he obviously just made a new team with like Stiko and Oscar and stuff. And so clearly, if it's like fucking LMBT, and LMBT is good English, by the way, right?
Yeah.
So he's clearly not misunderstanding shit, right? If he's able to communicate on a tweet to a random like me with like 100 followers, and they said there's not enough open qualifiers, it has to be enough people that think this, right? So I have to kind of rebuttal this point.
I do think that this season the qualifiers aren't the issue. The issue is that you need to get to get Valve ranked. You need to play in more than just qualifiers, and if you lose the qualifier, which is already hard enough to like guarantee, right? Or because you're gonna get a mishmash of teams. The fact that this year at least there's not as much like CCT style events is going to hurt making new rosters, and that makes the core rule feel bad right now. I think next year, as long as the scene and the tournaments exist, it won't be a problem. But I think that if this is a trend that continues, if we were just going to get more tier 1 and tier 2 that just invite by core and the qualifiers aren't like as robust, it will probably continue to be a problem. But
yeah,
I think that's where
I agree it's an issue.
Yeah.
I agree it's an issue, but that feels like a separate. I agree
Yes.
it's a compounding issue. It compounds with the VRS core thing
Yeah.
as like a bowel like disgusting after effect, but it's like not like the tier 2 problem isn't because of the core issue. The core issue is like a connecting problem that leads to like a terrible fungal disease. You know what I'm talking about?
I get
Like,
what you're saying, but for me for now at least it feels hand in hand. But
and that type of thing, right? And so my reasoning is that like in the problem with the ESL ranking, not just because I mentioned before, like, oh, this player now
Yeah,
has
yeah,
to
yeah.
be.
No, I
Because
agree
I'm making
that
an extreme
I
example.
agree
right?
that the ESL ranking is not ideal for
Like I want to
practical
make it
situations.
one specific extreme example, and then I'll hop off to give the mic to everyone else.
Yeah, yeah.
Is it like imagine around Katowice 2024, right? For example, your IGL Snappy, right? Because remember Falcons just had top 4, right? They're top 10, right?
Yes.
You have MOUZ as your star rifler, NaVi top 10 at the time. You have Nex as your
I
big
see
side
where
anchor.
you're going.
G2 was top 10 at the time. You have Magic as your small side anchor, one of the top 5 team in the world, right? And Boom, which is your opera, top 10 team in the world. That is a top 10 team by points.
It's true.
That is a nightmare. That's way worse than any VR's core you can think of.
Well, probably not, but I guess your point is made. I think the
Like they think of any VR's core in the top 10 now that could be worse.
Yes.
So can you have
I-
anything you want to say?
Yeah, I'm thinking whether I can make a crap team out of top 10 that by basically getting rid of 2 players. And if I think about it, the team that comes to my head straight
G2?
away, no, is well, G2 is one of them. Yeah, G2 I was thinking Snacks, Hunter, and Heavy God at the
Yep.
moment. Like that's an awful core to start with. Like you don't want that core. But what about Chopper, Magic, Zontics?
The difference is that like Zonti's and Magic have good maps. Like I agree that like that's not a good core, but the problem is like at that point you have to like give me like a bad star rifle and like a bad star.
yeah, but
you're
you're not gonna get a star. Maybe that's not even a guarantee. The point, I
Like
guess that's
obviously, but
besides
the problem is like because the thing is that's still not. Here's the thing, none of those 3 players are worse than Boomich as an opera or like Snappy as an IGL. Like I would take Chopper or Snappy every day of the week right now. Like I would take I would take a lot of star rifles over ammo.
that's probably true.
Emphasis
Because,
is
but we do have a
2024
strong field of rifles right now, so that's kind of, it's a fair point.
True.
But anyway, I think
yeah.
just to round this one off, Sift and Kenny, what do you think about this discussion? Where do you fall?
I mean, I personally think everything is alright from perspective of 3 players being the core of the team and carrying the points. I think there is no point in changing it at the moment, and I mean that's how it should continue. The VRS will needs time more than anything to level up the field. I think it also will gives obviously not as much opportunity, I think, for up and coming teams to like get to the tier 1 straight away. You know, like you maybe not gonna get Mongol story happen as quickly, but it will happen if they're consistent enough throughout, like, you know, several
it might just take longer. That's true.
it will take maybe a couple of years instead of 1 year for those kind of like a good team to get to the tier 1, tier 1.5 basically.
Yeah.
Of the Counter Strike.
Yeah. Sift,
I mean that's
Sift, what do you got on this to round us off?
I don't disagree that the new system is probably better. I think we'll have to see how it turns out. But I think a lot of the rules Valve have done recently have been improvements. I do think VRS probably is going to go through some changes as they see how it affects teams, but I do think it's probably better than ESEA's ranking system.
Yeah, as an aside, I don't know why I thought about this just now. It's just a random thought. Like, cause HOTV does the like point deductions for roster moves as long as you keep the core, right? What do you think about that? If Valve implemented something similar, do you think that would be fair or not?
Sorry, can you say that again?
So, like, you know how HOTV's ranking has like point deductions when you remove a player from the lineup, but the core stays, right? I'm pretty sure that's what they have. Yeah. What do you think about Valve implementing something similar?
I don't know. I mean, it's I want to see how the current system works before they make any massive changes to it.
Okay.
Agree. Yeah, I totally agree with that. There is no point. We need more data.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. Okay. I think so. We'll move on to my 10%, right? And this is also it's a Valve point, but this is another like it's sort of it's wobbly, but I think it's just more discussion based because I wanted to talk about the new major system, 32 team majors, right? And I think coming into this season, I think there's a 10% chance that Valve made a huge mistake making this major upcoming, the one that they do for 32 teams, like right now. So current information about the major, we know the slots are going to be, I think this is correct, 16 European, 11 Americas, and 5 Asian squads, right? So I think first of all, we've got it split into 3 Swiss stages instead of 2. They just chopped one into it. They added one, and I think the first stage's quality is going to be horrendous for a major. Like,
Yes,
we're gonna see
so
we're
bad.
gonna see some of the worst Counter-Strike that has a Counter-Strike major.
Bro, the amount of terrible like challenger stage, opening stage games I've watched is like, bro. I remember the Face It major where there was like in the opening stage there was like a billion overtimes. I remember there was like a Tyloo like Team Spirit game that was like 3 OTs and like Spirit threw like a bunch of match
Listen,
points.
that
and,
Tyloo team wasn't that bad compared to
like the Tyloo team was like entertaining, but like bro, Spirit played like both teams played kind of sloppy in that Inferno game. And like, remember, didn't the X-Crit win like a 1v3 with like 8 seconds on the clock or something ridiculous?
Yes, I do remember seeing that. But yeah,
like, you remember how sloppy that game
yeah,
was?
that's
Like,
true.
I remember
Continuing on,
you remember
I think
North
yeah,
played
yeah.
Rogue in a BO1 Inferno game. This is North that just won Stockholm, by the way. And like Rogue should have won, and then North, like MSL pulled Magic and barely won them the fucking game. It was like, and this is when Rogue had
But like,
KD and
I think
fucking NiKo and shit.
that Counter-Strike's gonna be pretty bad for something that's called a major. Another thing that people
Yes.
are not thinking about, but I think is a relevant point to bring up, is that the major sticker money has been declining for a little while ever since. I mean, Paris was a huge
Yes.
anomaly last CS:GO major. People bought it way,
Yes.
way too much, and the
Because
stickers.
the thing is that the sticker money's
Yeah.
been more or less around the level of Rio for the last 2.
Yes, and it's been like declining a little bit from what people are saying. And if you split
Yes.
the 32, I think that further dilutes the money that each team is going to get, which
Yes.
could also cause problems as it stands. And I think if Valve need to do some, I think they're probably still cooking it, right? There was some unfinished files of like charms for major teams. They might cook
Yes.
something and like try to inject some more money into it. But without that, I think it's going to be it's going to be a little bit
Dire.
problematic, and teams might not be ready for the financial impacts of like what's going on there, which
Yeah,
may be
I
good long term,
remember-
but like right now, I think it's a troubling
Yeah,
factor.
it's pretty bad. I remember. I want to kind of continue your point.
Yeah,
I
go
remember I
on.
watched Last Nation did like a podcast with Jason Lake about like the state of CS
The horse
because we're obviously going into the VRS era and not the partner era anymore, right? And like obviously Jason Lake was a partner team, obviously Complexity, and obviously he owns the company now. They have a few sponsors, right? And he mentions how like the less sticker money from the last 2 majors is actually making a difference. The concept of like being able to pay the players, what players they can get. Like I remember I made a joke to Messioso, who's the manager of the CS team, and joked how like impossible the M80 buyouts are. So you're not getting M80 players already, right? Expect you want to stay North American, right? And so the problem is like because you're already limited on options and you can't even get your rivals players because the M80 buyouts are ridiculous. Like you tried to pay $500K for MOUZ, by the way, right? That's how ridiculous the buyouts are. It's crazy. And this is MOUZ had done nothing on LAN pretty much. He had like 2 decent LANs and that was it. Like he played mainly online qualifiers and farm team look a bunch of times, and that was it. So
yeah. So and the one thing that it does counter the thing is that this major we do get direct invites to the major itself. So that is a good thing about it. So I think that's probably one of the better like lifelines for this change system. But here's another thing that like a companion factor on top of the fact that the first stage is going to be terrible to watch. There's going to be some time zone issues for it being in North America is going to be a little bit of a problem compounding onto that. Secondarily,
admittedly, it's less of an issue than fucking Shanghai having games at like the afternoon.
True. But
and to the point where like to understand how bad it was, I live in like around like the east coast of the US. The first game is like midnight, and the second game is like 3 a.m. It's literally impossible.
I mean, it was great for me,
but
but I recognize for the viewing majority, it's pretty
like
rough.
to put this in context. The Spirit phase final that went to 3 maps, it was somewhat close. I woke up at 6 a.m. and it just finished. That's how bad it was.
Yeah, welcome to my life.
Yeah, I mean, but it's like same stuff for all the tournaments happening in Europe.
Yeah, but I think
how AJ is watching it, it's normal. If you want to
Admittedly, I think the problem is because Asia doesn't. You can't like. I think you can't go to. You can't be out later than like 7 or 8 p.m. or so. I don't know what the exact ruling is.
It depends on the place. That's not true, but
or like or very least I know people like have like work and stuff. so they can't like just stay up late or something like that. Because you know a lot of the Shanghai people are pretty.
Well, no,
like,
we just
older
don't get
people. They're not,
Chinese
like,
viewership numbers at all because of the statistics are locked behind
Yeah.
stuff. But that's the size of
So
the
the point I'm trying to make is that like it's something related to like people just wanting like because people the games can't start early because people are early at work, for example, right? So the game has to start
Yeah,
like
I mean
2 p.m. instead
the
of-
Chinese thing was the time was even weird for it being held in China. I think that was like a weird middle ground
like
thing.
everyone the ones who
But
are
like
happy were fucking, like,
that's besides the
Australians
point.
were
To get
happy the games
yeah,
ended at, like,
but to
fucking,
get
like,
back
5
to
p.m.
what I'm trying to say, like
Yes.
we have a lot of compounding factors for things to get really bad publicity like right after the major. Sticker money would be weaker, I think, especially that's probably gonna be true if they don't do something like major about cosmetics, right? The match quality is gonna be bad. We're gonna get viewer fatigue from it going 3 Swiss stages is going to make people lose their fucking minds watching
Yes.
going to the majors.im website, figuring out who's going to play who next. They're going to forget what stage they're
Now it's gonna
watching.
affect the next stage. 'Cause remember, I think this major is the first major we're going back to 1 versus 16.
Is that true? That might be true. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure that's
But
mentioned
that,
in the
like,
rules. That it's the first
yeah,
major,
well-
or at least Messioso mentioned it. It's the first major in a while that returns back to 1 versus 16.
that-
Because the reason I had to do the 1 versus 9 because Swiss system was fucking broken.
Yes.
It meant that
Well,
the
Swiss-
11 seed
Swiss
had a
was
better
fine,
draw
but
than
the
like
right,
the 8 seed.
it was like the middle matches struggled because you got top team.
Were weird because the reason why the 1-9 works is assuming that we don't get too many upsets, which thankfully these last 2 majors haven't had too
Yes,
many
because
crazy
the Valve
upsets.
ranking has been more inaccurate enough to create accurate matchups.
Like thankfully we had decent starting seeding because the problem is before the seeding, the armor of the seeding was based on the last major.
But I think overall, I think that they should have what they should have done if they want to do 32 team majors, they should have pre-introduced the cosmetics in the fixed system, and they should have let the seasons play out so that you could get teams to build up and get a little bit better. So that when you have a 32 team major, and you also the slot allocation is kind of problematic as well because 11 America's teams and 5 Asian teams, you're going to get some absolutely, and I'm speaking from like Asian perspective as well, you're going to get some dog shit teams in this major. Like the 5th best Asian team is not qualified to get this sticker money, but they're going to get it anyway. I'm just saying it from like current perspective.
Yeah. Because here's the thing, in the
Yeah.
context
Well,
of like,
hold on, I'll just let the rest of these guys speak.
Yeah, I'll
as
let the
well.
others talk.
Kenny, what do you think?
I'm not really entirely sure, to be honest, on the topic.
No, what do you think?
Okay.
It's
I think-
32 team majors, like
It's just, for me personally, I don't see a problem, mostly because it just gives more opportunity for tier 2, tier 3 teams on a financial level.
that's true. Yeah, helps the bottom line.
I think the game, I think the game itself, obviously, the level of the Counter-Strike you're gonna get is gonna be poorer. But people, I think, underestimate like how much amateur style or like low-level Counter-Strike can be exciting to watch for just fan bases.
Yeah, that's true.
You know,
but
you
maybe 3
maybe
Swiss
not
systems
gonna.
in.
Yeah, but for example, let's say you are.
Oh, I know it's fun,
Czech,
but
you know, you're Czech or Slovak who has a full squad of like sinners playing, and it's fun for it gives wider reach for audiences who may never known is possible to reach,
yeah. But the
at
thing
this
is,
point.
most of the slot expansion is not EU. We already like this EU changes is not as much as important as the American and Asian slot increases.
Yeah, doesn't Asia get like 5
Asia
slots
gets 5,
now?
America gets 11. I don't even know if there are 11. Oh,
Oh,
no,
somebody left.
no, it was Bola did say he might have to go at some random point, so that might happen. But
Oh, okay.
so continuing on, I think what do you call it? Like the 11th best America's team is going to like it might even be mythic. Like
Yeah,
you're gonna get like eight South American teams, and like complexity will make it because like if they don't make it, they should actually just retire.
We might need to restart the recording thing because I don't know how it handles
Well, let
leaving and
me,
rejoining.
Let me
Yeah, am I saying good?
let me check.
yeah, it's fine.
No, I think it's fine. You people have left and rejoined before.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I can.
But yeah, I think
Yeah.
from perspective it's all right. I mean, it makes total sense that they've increased it. It gives wider reach for smaller regions. I mean, like, why not?
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
I think it should be
point.
done.
Want me to come back?
No, we're continuing on
Yeah.
the thing, but I think what I meant to do with this point is that I think there's a small chance that it's just like a dominoes collapsing, House of Cards crumbles, and it becomes like a really annoying disaster where people say that it was a mistake, even though it was probably the right thing to do in the long term as things like line up for it. But I think this major is like uniquely positioned to make it seem much worse than it is. Because you're gonna get bad matches, slightly worse times, worse like money, and so everybody's gonna complain at the same time for this specific event. So I think that's what I mean by it.
Also, train might still not even be a good map.
Yeah, that's not even counting the actual like top end stuff like that.
I have hopes.
Yeah.
I have hopes.
That's why I think it's. You think 10%'s fair for it to be like a disaster?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think maybe 10%. I do think
Because I agree. I think it's a good thing. Yeah, go on.
One final thing I'll add to it is a lot of people weren't sure about the sort of major changes with the which Valve made to the majors after I think it was after Blast Paris.
Yeah.
And that turned out to being honestly some of the best majors that we've had so far with like the people who've made it.
Seeding or some of the 1v9?
Seeding, I believe.
Yeah, because the Valve ranking is way better than the fucking whatever they're doing before.
Yeah, so I'm gonna reserve my doubts. I think that it has the potential to be really good.
Yeah, so do I. I just think that this specific major might like show the worst of it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There's always going to be people who complain about changes.
Yeah, I think that's.
Shall we go on to the next?
Fair. Go on.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say something real quick
okay.
to kind of wrap it up.
Sure.
My rebuttal on the 11 Americas thing is that like, because here's the thing, right? I genuinely think once we go below MOUZ, and you come on, you're downplaying how like MOUZ is a team, and MOUZ is like the 5th, 6th best team in Europe.
Yeah, but
right?
but then we're talking about trophy lifting. MOUZ, when we talk about like winning group stage 1 of 3 stages, that's like a different standard. Like MOUZ is a bad team when we're talking about
the thing about right? Because what is the best European team below MOUZ?
Well, I mean, there's a lot around MOUZ. Below, it's hard to just like strictly pick one. Falcons.
Like,
I don't know.
Think MOUZ is somehow even worse than 6. Let's say you think MOUZ is like at worst, like let's say they're 6th best team in Europe, right? They're clearly 6th. What is the best European team below MOUZ?
Well, I mean,
Mongols.
Mongols not European team.
No, European. Sorry, European. Virtus Pro. VP.
Maybe Falcons. Maybe Astralis.
It's way too early to say.
I would say we've just had a load of.
But we'll get to your point. Yeah.
So the point I'm trying to make is that like, are you confident that like Falcons would be like the 6th? I know it sounds hilarious, but think about it, right? Because of how little faith we have in Falcons, how little faith we have in.
Yes, but this is faith relative to the top, not relative to the bottom. Falcons would dumpster a lot of these American teams. I have no
would
doubt.
They?
Yes, NiKo would eat them for breakfast.
Are you sure?
Yes, I am sure.
Yes.
Bro, the old Falcons lost the fucking record.
I would say even Hooksy, who I despise as an IGL, would uplift a lot of the NA teams if they listened to him.
Bro is farming.
But maybe they're playing like ECL.
Never had
yeah, but like what's the
never
top?
had an issue with tier 2, man. Hooksy never
Think
had
about
an
it, right?
issue
Think about it, right?
with
Because right now, like, let's be honest, like, Pain right now is like.
Yeah, Pain is one of the best teams in the American region, though. Go to the bottom of the American teams.
Right? The best team in the Americas is probably Team Liquid, right?
Well, true, I guess.
And then second best team is Furia, right?
Unfortunately.
And then third best is like maybe MIBR.
Okay, yeah, I mean I can see that. But then you go down from there, it becomes rough.
Probably Pain.
Yeah, I get the top half I'm fine with. The bottom half are like bad.
And then the 5th best you can argue is like M80.
But M80 aren't that
maybe
good.
Wildcard.
But like the bottom,
Wildcard and MA is like a 5th, 6th best.
Think about the bottom 3 teams.
I'm so confused. What is this discussion now going into?
Yeah, it's true.
Especially the 5th, 6th. The point I'm making is the 7th, 8th best team in Europe is not that much better than the 5th or 6th best team in the Americas.
Yeah, but that's not what I'm comparing to, though.
I agree with 11 is like a
because they're not playing each other anyway.
Is, like, the Americas region plays better at majors than Europeans. They do. Like look at the last 2 majors.
What?
Look at the last 2 majors. Look at the results of the last 2 majors. American teams have been kind of whooping Europe a little bit.
South America is lifting a lot of that.
True. No, Wildcard did all right.
Yeah, but Wildcard have got two important players and a very experienced IG. I'm not saying that's not true. I'm just like saying that
Like,
like,
Team
but like
Players
if you
now
if you
are
invite the
majority
11
America, South
11
Asia.
best America's teams, you got like the top. You're gonna get like the top 7, top 8 from South America. You're gonna get like 2 or 3 American teams. The bottom group of those that are playing in the first stage of the major are going to be the bad ones, by virtue
I
of
agree
how
with you
they
on that, but the
invite.
problem is like let's not act like Fnatic is playing great CS. It's not like NIP is gonna be a great team.
Yeah, but Fnatic would beat any of the bottom 3 America's teams.
Are you sure they couldn't beat
Yes.
fucking Rare Atom? Like, are you serious?
Yeah, but the rare atom would boosted by Chinese power.
I feel you, but the problem is like if it's like tier 2 Europeans.
I'm not saying it's impossible
aren't
for them
even,
to
like,
lose. Fnatic is one that could lose, but I still think Fnatic
The
would
problem
win.
is, like, think about it, right? What would you replace against like
Okay,
I don't
but
know,
like
an
the
NRG?
slots
Would
are
you put,
gonna
like,
resolve themselves anyway, because of the
like, unless you think
distribution.
like Big Clan is like twice as good as like a fucking M80 or something like that. Like I
Yeah, but-
really don't agree with the argument here.
Big Clan are one of the no, but that matches up because Big Clan are not a top European team. They're a
What
very
is
bottom.
what's
your point?
the point being argued right
The
now?
point is that
I'm
like
very
if we were going down to like the 7th, 8th best team in Americas, and we're going down to like let's say you want
I'm
to
going down to the
Are we
11th.
talking
I'm
about
going
the
down to
7th,
the
8th
11th.
best teams in Americas? Sorry, like what is?
Because I'm assuming backpackbrain's point is that you want it to be like 8 teams from Americas, right? Let's say it's a reasonable number, right?
Yes, that would look better.
You want to take those 3 and give it to Europe. It may give them 19.
We'll not give it to Europe. Let the slots play out. I'm saying next major we'll see a more accurate distribution because they've added the slots on top
Like,
of us. Like,
So let's say we give 1 to Asia and 2 to Europe, right? In this case.
well, no, we'll see. They could earn the
They've
slots back.
specifically
I'm not.
said that they will change the distribution based on
Based
who
on the
gets
performance of the major,
to
yes.
the major. So this is
That's
a
how it's
redundant
always
point.
been actually.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm saying they should. I'm just saying that it would. The distribution probably looks better next major after the Americas teams lose this major. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying they should redistribute.
I
it.
agree with that.
I'm saying that's what will happen.
Yes.
Yes,
But the
so then
problem
if
is,
you
like,
agree, then
you
there's
have
no-
to
that's-
earn it
we're
at the major.
agreeing.
I agree with your sentiment that it will look ugly, but the difference is like let's not act like because I get what you mean in the sense like to me the viewers think it's ugly, but like because we all agree like Fnatic were playing great CS, Nip like even though I respect Snappy, it's not like they're gonna play perfect
Yeah,
CS.
and those are the
Like,
teams in
I
the
think
early
it's ugly
stage as
even
well.
if it wasn't America's teams.
I'm not saying just America. The outside of the top 2, top 3, the Asian teams are not very good either. Like, and the bottom
agree.
European teams are also bad. But like, that's part of all of that is part of my point that the viewers will
I
suffer
agree
from
with
that first stage. I'm not saying the bottom European teams are that much better than the very like the second to bottom American team, but they might be better than the
Yes.
very bottom because that's just the way that the cookie crumbles. But like, I'm not saying
Yeah, that's how it is.
like a Big Clan versus M80 would probably be a closer game, but Big Clan versus like if you go down to the 11th best team in the Americas region, that would look
It was
very
like Red
different.
Canids maybe.
Yes,
Maybe Legacy.
something like that.
I
But,
get what you mean. So
anyway,
next-
we've sort of dug this one out of everywhere. We'll move on to I think it's Sift's point, right?
Yep.
Yeah, go on.
This one might be contentious.
I hope so.
10% Imperial FE can make it out of Katowice playing.
I need to look at the matchups. Hold on.
No.
Look at the
I know
matchups first.
the Fury opening game.
Doable.
Sorry, could you
Because no
repeat?
disrespect, but like you're playing Fury opening game. That's an auto loss.
10%. Okay,
They
let me.
play Fury and like I think they play some decent teams in that bracket. They did not get a good draw.
Who can they beat?
No, because we have the bracket.
I know, but I'm looking at every single. We have the bracket, but who could they beat even outside
No,
of the
because
bracket?
because they're playing either wild card or bank.
Yeah, Sift. I gotta give me
Yeah?
the Doctor Strange 1 in 14 million. Like, how does it happen?
Right. On the off chance Furia has a terrible game, Fallen shits the bed as usual. Quesarado falls over with COVID.
Possible, but then I need to.
Let's say they get through to wildcard versus Big.
Okay, yes,
Genuinely,
these are all best
they
of
showed a
threes.
good standing versus Navi.
It's true, but
Fair.
also, question marks.
I
on
think
whether
that
was-
that
anyway.
shows that they are in big wildcard.
Those are probably some
They're
of the
not
most
Navi
beatable
level. I
teams.
think with the time, they said so themselves that in the after interview that they weren't entirely sure. They were going in to just kind of learn. But I think that with the results that they've got versus NaVi, they can be sort of happy given where they're at.
I agree.
I think that they can take that and be a lot more confident going into Katowice playing.
I agree with
If
that.
Anna shows up, because she was having an awful
She had a
game
nightmare.
versus
She
NaVi.
it was like 11 kills across 2 maps. It was crazy.
Yeah. That's a really like an outlier of a bad performance.
Like legit Senzu in the quarterfinal type nightmare.
Yeah. So genuinely, if the rest of the team can show up like they did versus NaVi, and Anna can even come close to her like normal form, I think genuinely they could even beat up Furia, depending on the map sort of picks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that if they get through that, they only need to beat wildcard or big to get through playoffs. I'm not saying get through the rest of
Play-ins,
Katowice. I'm saying just the play-ins.
Yes.
Even if they lose to Furia, they're going versus, let's say, Heroic beat Liquid and
EFB.
Oh no, sorry. So let's say it would be probably
Well, if they not, you can see
Yeah,
you can see
sorry.
the way it falls down. If they
Yeah,
would play against
yeah,
Wait,
I'm
wait,
just
it
trying to
would be
find
wildcard big against.
Yeah, it would again be wildcard big, and then
Yeah.
it would probably be
Probably
maybe
Liquid or Heroic.
FlyQuest, or let's say if FlyQuest what got through and they went versus Astralis, then it might be versus them.
They
Like, I
need
could
to
see
get
them-
very, very fortunate.
I could see Imperial beating beating wildcard big, FlyQuest, maybe Saw. Like it just depends on the matchups, but like I think that they have shown with. I mean, it's small sample size, but I mean, it was definitely a lot more
Yeah.
impressive than a lot of people thought.
Yeah.
And I think that while maybe initially it sounds kind of, crazy, I do think that based on matchups, it's not like they're going versus, honestly, one of the best teams that's there and they're looking rocky is Astralis, right? So, and Liquid.
I think the chances.
Astralis,
yeah,
Liquid,
yeah.
Heroic are sort of the top 3 there, and they seem pretty
Bro.
unlikely to go versus them in the matchup.
I think. Can I
Yeah.
just say that I think what Furia will do to Imperial Fair in their match will dampen a lot of people's
Yes.
expectations for
exactly.
Imperial Fair. I think people underestimate the amount of reason why it worked well against NaVi. I think also the way they played and stuff is because NaVi plays Counter-Strike. They aren't gonna intentionally disrespect the team.
They
And they
don't
also-
play disrespect.
They also don't have a really
Yeah.
one.
They were
They don't have
playing
one
pretty
star.
disrespectful rounds first 5 maps, first 5 rounds.
They did everything they would have done against the top team. Like from a strategical standpoint, they were doing everything they would have done.
Like,
I think
even
there are
for
a
the
few
lobby,
Technically,
the exact same
sure,
as
but
G2.
tactically, in terms of individual decisions, they were definitely going for a lot more individual plays than.
Then you'll see. Then you'll see what
than you would expect.
players like Cello and
I
Ketzerato
know
will do.
Fury is a lot
Like-
more aggressive, but I would argue that Fury is, at least on their individual level, apart from maybe Ketzerato, sometimes Yuri, like genuinely the rest of them, they can have pop-off games, but they're not on the level of NaVi.
Actually, I don't know if that's true. I think Navi's individual. Well, okay. I think it's difficult to say that's.
I just think.
If you put a JL versus a Ketzerato, I'm taking JL.
I don't know if you can.
Man,
I don't know if
but
you
it's
are
not
taking
about that.
JL. That's the
One
thing.
time
Maybe
we
now
are
you
I
are.
feel like
talking
that's a
about
trash
and
with
the way
garbage
the
right now.
teams. Yeah, the way the teams play is matters.
Yes,
Like
I know.
Fury
I
plays.
agree.
Well,
Fury plays
definitely.
a
I'm not.
different style of
It's-
Counter-Strike than Navi play. Navi do not play the same destructured Counter-Strike that Fury can play. And knowing Brazilians, they're not gonna respect Imperial Fair. They're not gonna respect them. They
No.
will push through smokes. They will give a headshot straight away. They will take disrespectful fights. And I think if Imperial Fake can at least handle certain level of that, then we have a match. But I doubt it's gonna be. They're gonna be able to handle them for the whole best of 3 series
Yes,
at all.
I agree.
Like there's.
I think it depends very much on the bans.
I don't
versus
think that. I
Furia.
don't think the veto
But
matters
even
that
if
much.
they lose versus Furia, I think, I mean, they're likely. Even if they lose versus Furia, they're going versus Wildcard or Big.
You know,
I think they
I'll
can
cut you a compromise. They can beat
I did say
Big.
it to 10%.
I'll give you 10%. They win one best of 3 specifically against Big.
That's,
No,
Will you take this
I
deal?
think that's
it would be
underselling
more
them.
likely to be wild card than big.
I think the other way around. I think that they would play better against a team that's focused around Team CS than individual CS.
No, because wild card I actually think is underrated because of how structured they are.
Yeah, I'm saying the structured part would make it. You know what? You're right, but
Wild card's pretty fucking strict actually.
yeah, but I'm saying that's a downside against Imperial female.
I mean,
Yes.
No, because my argument is that like I think Big's individuals can make more plays in rounds than wild cards. Wild cards individuals
And
are
also
fucking underwhelming.
statistically alone, every single player on Wildcard is worse than Big.
It's true. It might be
And then
it's a
that's with
toss up
Wildcard
on which
playing
one's
as NA
easier.
competition.
Okay, no, I'll group them. I'll put them both on the table for a 10% chance that one
Okay.
of those is a victory. But I'm
As
not
a
taking
10,
anything
as
else.
a 10%, I can only say that Imperial Fake can take them up. That's what I will say.
You know,
I-
I
Really?
back that. I back
That's-
that.
Yeah.
That's, you think that it's 10% they take a map in the entire
Yes.
play-ins?
Yes.
I'll say 2 maps, not
That's-
winning a series. That's it.
That's
the thing,
wild,
right?
I think.
Because I'm gonna put my like hat in the ring on this one. The problem is, here's the thing: in the Navi series, first of all, I think Navi's been like in dire form for a couple months, so I don't think that tells me anything about the
I also think Navi underestimated them.
And
Yeah.
not just also that, because I'm like, nobody's probably 1-4 for the knife on Mirage. They clearly weren't at 100%. That was like 70% capacity.
I'm not saying Imperial Female didn't win some rounds fair and square, and tactically they had
They
some really
rounds.
good
They had some
moments.
good tactics.
That was
they won some
breakdowns.
default rounds.
Yeah, there was some breakdowns of the rounds on Twitter that were very they talked about those details, and I think that part was true.
Yes, they had some nice executes. They won some nice clutches, but like it clearly, like Navi are. I'm not stuck if it's Navi are full capacity yet, right? So that doesn't teach me anything, right? Navi been in a slump for a while, and the thing is, Fury I genuinely think is underrated. And the problem is, Fury are one of those teams that they're so close to being good that everyone thinks Fury is. It kind of reminds me of Charles almost. It's just like Fury had that great run in Rio. Then they play on the stage and they get fucking destroyed. Everyone acts like they suck, right? At Shanghai, they look really good. They beat Spirit in the best of 4. Holy crap. They go to 3 maps against freaking FaZe, right? But they don't get out of the Swiss system, right? So everyone thinks they suck. And there's a main event, right? They should have been Bedlam. I don't know how they didn't beat Bedlam, but they don't win the game, so everyone thinks they suck. But for like 90% of the games they lose, they're actually like a really good team. They just don't close the game. So the problem is,
It's true.
against
It's not the
Imperial
same
FE,
Furia that people have been talking about for a while. It's not.
like,
It's not
also,
the old Furia.
K-Star's been fucking whack for like 6 months, if we're being honest.
True.
K-Star's had like 2 good tournaments last 6 months.
But the question of whether that's the norm or whether he's going to return is another question. But
K-Star had EWC where we fought a bunch of new games, if you remember, and IEM Rio we had a crazy
Yeah.
group stage.
okay, so
Like,
I don't
remember,
I don't
they
think
only
has
played Shanghai
anybody
was sold to the
agreed
best player.
with Sift's point. I mean, it was
I
definitely
don't
gonna be
agree with this point
contentious.
because I think come on, Fury have been like a top 12-ish team. So think about it. Fury's bad
You're
results are
getting
like
really
getting
stuck
wrecked by
on Furia,
Vitality.
but like I'm saying, even if they go into the lower
Yeah, but they still need to
bracket,
win
they're
2
going
best of
versus
3s if
big
they win in
wild
the lower
card,
bracket.
and then
No, the
they're
point
more,
you're making is that
more
they
than
have no
likely.
shot against Fury. I think Fury's floor is actually underrated as fuck. And also, the problem is we don't know if we even have a fucking map pool is the problem. Like, Fury have flaws, but like, Fury have Dust too. They're really good on that map.
I actually
Fury
think
have
it
Nuke.
might be
They're
harder
really
for
good on that map.
Imperial Female to beat tier 2 teams than it is to beat tier 1 teams. At least a map.
And then the problem here is if you go to wildcard big, okay, here's the thing, right? Even if we're going on individual, big clans firepower, even though it's not that impressive in the context of top European players, do you think Crimbo doesn't farm them?
I think Crimbo's the only one who will farm them, which is a better
I mean,
chance
if you
than a lot
look
of the
at
other ones.
if you look at their permabans, Furia play fewer maps than Imperial. That should give
It's
them
also
the
because Fury,
advantage.
like just because we had the player break and Fury don't play a lot of like online games, like that's the problem with using maps for 3 months to 6 months. Like Fury's 2 really good maps are Dust to a Nuke. They've beaten top teams on both those maps, and like if Fury get one of them, they're gonna auto win that, right? And then if it goes to a cider, if it goes like an Inferno, Fury is actually
Even
underrated on
last
this.
6 months, they've played 6 different maps.
That's how it works. Like Fury permanent ancient, which is one of the better maps for Imperial FE, and Imperial FE have to ban Anubis.
Sure.
Yeah,
But-
I'm right here. The problem is like Imperial FE lose one of their better maps. If you're even like in love with Anubis, they're very mixed on that map. And Fury get all the maps they like in this video. They get Mirage, they get Inferno, they get Dust 2 Nuke. There's literally nowhere Fury doesn't like in this video. So they're already locked out. And the problem with Wildcard, even though I think Wildcard's overrated, I've never thought they're a sick team when it comes to like series play, and they don't have the greatest players. The experience gap, like when it comes to like really important games,
I mean,
think that
Furia
Stanislaw
lost
and,
to Namiga and BetBoom this year in Mirage.
Mirage is like, come on, that's like their fourth best map, like not even close to their best map. As an example, right? Like they're better on Inferno, Dust 2 and Nuke as an example, right? And because of Namiga and BetBoom, like they do play those maps. And again, like it's not like Imperial FE are like amazing on that map in comparison to like in the concept of playing Fury specifically. If you're at the major, won a couple Mirage games, like
I'm
really
not
got like a lot of
saying
close games.
I'm not, but I'm saying like 10% overall getting through play-ins. Even if they lose to Furia, they're going versus Wildcard or Big, and then
Think about
after
it, okay,
Wildcard
Wildcard, I
or
think they have,
Big,
like,
they're
an
more than
outside-
likely
I'll be
going
generous, I think
versus
Wildcard has, like,
Sprout, not Sprout, FlyQuest or Pain.
I just think
And the
10%
problem is,
is
first off,
quite-
if they're playing Pain, Pain destroys them. Pain actually, because Davideus would be the best player in the server by far. Davideus looks really good at Bounty, right? So that's ridiculous. And also, Big there is a really good caller. Pain have a decent map pool. They have Mirage. They have fucking Dust.
Snow
2,
will roll
Nuke.
over him. Like
Where they go?
Snow
Snow
will
would wreck
roll
them
over
too in
him.
clutch. Snow won every
Yeah.
clutch too. Like
I
that's
don't know.
ridiculous, right? And then when it comes to Big
Like,
again,
I
Kimbo.
listen,
I
want,
agree that there's a
I really
possibility,
want
but-
Imperial. Yeah, I really want Imperial Fair to do.
I want Imperial
well.
to be competitive. I agree.
Yeah, but problem is I think at the currently I don't think they are there. I think teams
Yes.
will work them out also as time goes on. That it will become much harder for them to genuinely showcase the level they showed against NaVi. That's
Also,
why for
Big
me
are gonna
one
do
map
enough to make a decent
Yeah,
video
yeah,
for
yeah.
themselves.
So can you continue?
That's why I think winning of one map for Imperial Fair will be huge.
Yes. When's the
Like,
last
I'm
time
not
they
even
won a
joking,
map
like-
against a non-female team?
Never. I'm joking, but like
I don't
can't think
remember.
of
It
one.
would have come up somewhere in like. It would have
I
been
think they
news.
have,
it has to
but
be down
not
like
on
advanced or
LAN.
something.
Not on land.
They have, but not on LAN. I think.
Yeah, I mean online maybe possible, but I do not
Yeah.
know. I haven't checked this, so for me it's hard. But from what I've seen in the games they've played, I do not think they have capability right now to go through the play-ins. No,
Mhm.
even for 10%. Winning a map, 10%, yes, I can agree to. Like,
Yeah.
but not going through play-ins.
Yeah,
no.
I think I agree with that. I agree with that sentiment.
Fair
Okay,
enough.
Yeah. Okay, Kenny, what's your round us off this great discussions? Give us your 10%.
Okay. No, I mean I had my last 10%
Oh,
is
yeah, yeah.
basically well 10%, yeah. Navi will win the next major only if Wonderful will be the MVP. I think that's kind of both together. Like Navi will win the major and then Wonderful will be the MVP. Why?
That's,
Because
Okay,
I
who
think
wants to start on this
I
one?
can explain.
Yeah,
I can
explain
the
it.
idea behind it. Why I think it's like 10%, even so probably too high for 10%. No, the reasoning is like this year should be last year should have been the year Wonderful made the next step. I think if by Austin Major he doesn't make the next step in his game, where he's starting to compete for that like top 8. No, I don't think this last year he was top 11. I think 11th place was too high for him personally.
I
I don't
agree.
think he was that good. Like the issue with Wonderful is consistency and himself calling shots when he needs to. As an AWPer, you need to know when to call for your shots. Not only on CT side, which he seems to be has become more comfortable, but also on the T side. I think that will be the next step for this Navi squad from perspective of the development of the squad is Wonderful reaching that level when he's calling shots for himself during both T sides and CT sides. not
Okay.
every time, but more consistently. And I think if I see that, I'm honestly very confident that Navi is the main team that is winning the major.
Yeah,
Because
that's fair.
everything else is set for this team. It's like
Yeah.
what they're missing is a consistent OPA who can take the aggressive moments in a game and by the throat. That's what they need. And Wonderful has got ability for that to do, but we've
Mm-hmm.
seen he mentally break often last year,
Yes.
and that's the part where he needs to improve. And if he manages to switch that on for this year, which I think has to be this year, this like next half a year for him to do, then we are talking about very scary Navi team, like even scarier than we've seen last year.
Mm-hmm.
And by Austin Major, I kind of expect it to happen.
That's tough. There's a
Want me to take the floor?
yeah,
Or?
yeah. You go first, and then we'll go everyone else.
Okay, I'll say two things. One, Wonderful is terrible in finals. It's actually like crazy how bad he is in finals. It's actually like outrageous. Like, come on, Navi played 7 finals and won 4 of them, and I think Wonderful had like one decent final. That was the EPL final against the Toronto final, which is the lowest ranked team they played, right? Like, look at Wonderful's finals. Like, come on, they've won 4 of these 7. So it's not like the Navi have lost all of these. It's not like Wonderful's lost them these finals exclusively. So I remember, and the problem here is that like against in all of these finals, Wonderful at the time is the worst opera, pretty much. Besides maybe the MOUZ, which was pretty decent. Like the Copenhagen Brokey was the better opera at the time than Wonderful, and he struggled. So pre-final against Shiro was a better opera, and even now is better opera than Wonderful. He struggled. Fall finals played against Modesty. He's the worst opera. He loses, right? He plays against Zai in the clone final. The worst opera. He struggles. He loses, right? The problem here is like Wonderful plays people that aren't these, or even plays some of these teams, but in like a semifinal or a group stage, it's fine because the op gap is less felt in a group stage. And this is like just historical facts, right? The op gap is less noticeable because maybe you can play a more like consistent style. You know that your style is going to work because there's no pressure of like playing well. You know what I mean? Like the reason why Hades, for example, was so good in group stages and could farm like FaZe Clan back in the day, and like could farm like Vitality at Katowice last year in a group stage, but he isn't as good on stage because like Cade can go for the crazy plays in the group stage, but when it's the final, for example, he knows like I don't want to lose the game. He's gonna get nervous. Like you ever watched Wonderful in like big finals and like he's like twitching his arm and shit. He's like vaping and shit.
I don't know about
I
vaping.
mean, I
Like
doubt
Wonderful
he's
looks
allowed to
shook
play
in
at the
half these
final.
finals.
Yeah, but I agree. That's the thing. I think his mentality is his weakest point.
Yes, I also
Because
think the
Yeah,
problem
yeah,
is
yeah.
Wonderful they
ability
just turned
is
20 is
there.
the problem.
Yeah, he's young.
He's
That's a
very young. And the problem
forgiven
is like
grace.
think about every
Yeah,
other
yeah.
opera he's
Let
playing
Kenny
these
talk.
finals.
Let Kenny talk.
They're my fault. My fault.
Yeah, because that's a grace that is given to Wonderful simply because he's so young. Because he's so young, you think like he can still improve, and reach that next level and be consistent, give that experience to him. This is why I think this year is also so crucial for him because that next step has to happen this year. There is a level of patience any team has, and I mean even so, Navi is historically a team that allowed their players to stay for a long time. This is
Yes.
the moment for Wonderful to showcase them. Yeah, you need me in this team. I can be that I can reach that next level. I can be consistent enough. And
Yeah.
yes, I mean historically his level in finals has been like god awful compared to his level in the rest of the tournament usually. But I think it also just depends on how he will I think experience helps certain level of mentality also. I think when you
Absolutely.
gain a lot of experience, you are more confident in circumstances and situations happening around you. You already know you've been there. You have more confidence in what is going to happen in the games, how to react to them. Like it is important. I think he gained that experience last year by
Yeah, I
losing
agree.
a lot of finals, by playing poorly, by looking at the demos of how he played, what he could have done. Talking, I think I don't know how much obviously it helps, but it certainly seems to be helpful for Navi team. It's Ursula's impact on a team that has their psychologist.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I think she probably needs to emphasize working um with Wonderful most at for this upcoming season, because
Yeah.
that would be basically where you can get the golden goose of this
I
team.
agree with that.
Yeah, I think that's
I agree that wonderful improving finals will be important. I'll let you. This is a quick point. Like, and I agree. The thing is that like every final that wonderful struggling, he's playing as a more experienced opera. Like Brokey isn't that old, but like Brokey's been in finals. He's won majors already. He's done everything already, right? So Brokey's in the finals. Like this has been there, done that. Shiro's been in at least a couple finals before he joined Spirit. At least a couple arena games, right? And then by the time he plays spring final against Wonderful, there's a fucking gap already, right? Monty's played plenty of finals. He's won Katowice Cologne before the fall finals even happened at that point, right? He's won important events already. He's been to the level of major himself. So he's done important things already. So like even though Monty's similar age, he's been on a top team longer. Because remember, Wonderful joined Team Spirit like 8 months or so after Monty freaking joined G2 already, right? And Spirit was a way worse team at the time than freaking G2 and worse players at the time. And the thing is, the problem is Wonderful's mentality is too passive. Think about it. When Wonderful was in Team Spirit, the reason why the Team Spirit respected Wonderful is because he wasn't Dexter. Dexter wanted to make his own plays. Dexter was aggressive. He was cocky. He wanted to make his own plays, right?
Yes.
yeah.
But I mean, with Wonderful, it's also a question of the system.
Yes,
I think the
that's
current Navi system does not assist AWPers at all. The whole point of Navi system is AWPer has to sit down, wait for things to happen around him, instead of being the one to dominate the server. And this is why I've said before, in my opinion, players like Shiro would fit into Navi system much better than Wonderful. But I do not think Wonderful cannot be changed because he's so young. He can adjust his playstyle to the Navi, what Navi needs. But I also think
Russian. That doesn't
the,
help either.
the success, yeah, I mean, obviously, sure, it's not going to be the same reason why Monacy is not going to be. But I think with Wonderful, in the current circumstances, it is possible for him also to take more responsibility for himself, to be more aggressive in rounds when he realizes he can be aggressive. He sees something in a game, but does not maybe communicate as well to his teammates. And maybe that part needs to be improved. Maybe the part where he needs to get more plays for himself by the coach and the IGL also. Like maybe Alexi and Blade needs to look at Wonderful and say, okay, we know how to utilize you on the CT side, because if you look at Wonderful's rating on CT side compared to his T side, there's a massive gap on his level. Meaning, the way he's utilized on T side, running as the last person consistently in the clutches in 1v stations, maybe he's not the best. Maybe let him be the first guy to go. Let him be the one picking with an AWP from ridiculous places. Like, one of the plays I remember they implemented for Wonderful was mid-rush on Anubis from T side. They boost him, he jumps into window as soon as possible, and then goes into canal, goes from canal to connector, and goes for a op pick from connector.
Yeah.
To the guy. That's stuff I want to see, and he does it so well. His movement is good, his ability is good. You could feel like he feels that kind of style makes sense to him, you know?
Yeah, and it's the same
Like
thing you
where
see
he
in all
can,
the clutches as well. How he
Yeah.
likes to play. Like you can just watch his style in that sense, and then it's so different to how he might normally play throughout the entire best of 3 as well. But another thing that we haven't talked about a little bit yet is that Tempest, I would say winning the major, they have as good a chance as any other top team, maybe a bit better because they are they've been around for a while. There's NaVi roster, obviously, that's the benefit. And we know that they have what it takes to win. It's just a matter of getting it together in this major, right? But another thing is that he needs to outperform JL in stage matches for it to be his MVP, which is the most difficult part for him so far. And that's they got a lot of delta to improve upon, because no matter how many group stage matches Wonderful farms in in the major, he will still have to do it in the stage. And the difficult thing is, and I was just looking at the arena rating for the NaVi squad members, right? JL's on a 1.16 arena rating, Wonderful's on a 1.04. They basically have like JL goes up, Wonderful goes quite a bit down, which is obvious because that's kind of the trend as well. It's hard. I think it's hard for a lot of AWPers as well. But for him to win the MVP, which is part of your take, he would have to not only improve in the ways you're describing, but JL would also not have to be as stellar in those stage matches as he has been, right? And I see no reason for that
I mean,
to change.
Beat is also IEM. They all can pop off for one tournament and take over. That's the beauty of this NaVi squad.
Yeah.
Every person in that
But
squad
the
can for
consistent
one
part,
tournament
the only
be.
consistent part over the entire thing is that JO has been great in stage matches, which is
Yes, exactly.
part of what Wonderful's gonna have to, because
Yep.
he has to fight his own team if for your take to be true, for MVP to be true. So I think it's not important. I think 10% is actually
Also,
pretty
JL just
fair.
hasn't been that good recently, so maybe just isn't that good at Austin specifically.
True. But I think I agree, honestly. I think that's probably a fair point to put it. Because if I think about it mentally, I'm like, if I'm doing, this is like math take, conditional probability or whatever, 20% chance they win. Maybe if Wonderful gets better, 50% chance it's his MVP, that's 10% right there, whatever, something like that. So I actually think, like, if you consider every, like, possibility, they have a good enough chance to win the major. Wonderful can get better, and it's actually a fair reason. I think it's actually well constructed, yeah. But Wonderful does need to improve. I don't think current Wonderful really has a chance.
This year will be huge for him.
Yeah.
I think it will show whether the potential can be lifted to that next level, or we are gonna be seeing mediocrity for the rest of the career. for him.
Yeah. All right, just see if you got the final say on the final take. Do you agree? Disagree? What's it be?
Can you just state the exact take again? Sorry.
Kenny, go ahead.
That NaVi will win the major and Wonderful will be the MVP. That's how I see it. Due to, I think Wonderful will
The
be
current
making that
Austin
step.
major. Or
Yes,
just a
which is in
major.
June. No, Austin major in June.
Well, I'm glad you said 10%.
Yeah, I mean it is a low percentage play because it requires Wonderful to not only improve but also be the
And
best player of
Wonderful
the team.
being MVP. I don't see that.
No, it's not just the MVP. Now we have to get back to form, and then Wonderful has to be the best player.
I mean, let's say, for example, they go versus. I mean, okay, he'd have a chance if Vitality go against him in the final because Zaiwu often falls off in finals. But Spirit, there's no way that Don can get in an MVP if he's in finals, and even if he doesn't win, right?
True. There's even a universe of MOUZ frags enough. Maybe he steals the MVP from him as well.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah.
If somebody gets 0.2 rating higher than you in the finals, they're probably gonna get the MVP even if you win.
That's the thing.
I agree with the 10% ish. Yeah. I'll say on the overall, I agree with it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that should be good. Just before we wrap up everything, any final words to round off this great conversation?
My name is Baller. I make articles on Medium.
Oh yeah,
Medium.com.
Give me the link. I'll put it in the description.
At Baller the King. Pretty sure that's my at. I'm trying to do active ranking updates. I've started around before Copenhagen. I've been doing pretty actively. I do my top 12 teams in the world. I usually maybe put a few honorable mentions, and I've been doing consistent based on LAN, series wins, placings, and stuff like that. I wish he was going to stop. I might continue depending on how the season rocks. I'm also probably gonna do a couple other types of articles. I just made a top 10 best series 2024, for example.
Yeah.
You'll be surprised about the list. Actually, it's pretty in depth. I might do a preview for Katowice, so that's just kind of things I want to plug.
Yeah, no, it's great. I'll put the link should be in the description above the timestamps. So I'll put that in. Anything else, Kenny? Sif, parting words?
Yeah,
no.
good.
Thank you for having me, as per usual.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, great job. All right, I don't know if I should YouTube outro this. My instinct because of all my recording YouTube, I'm just like and subscribe. It feels so cringe to say like and subscribe though, so I'll just leave it.
And hit the bell button.
Yeah,
that's why we can just say subscribe and like.
Exactly. There we go.
Comment about
who you think will win the Austin Major.
That's true. I should have told him a comment at the start because if no one's gonna make it to the very end and then interact. They should have would have
It's
commented.
probably 4
I
hours.
know. Some people
No
are,
tournaments played in 2025. Who will win the Austin Major, boys?
exactly. Anyway, thank you for watching. See ya.